All right. I hear us on air. So, how's it going, everyone? And welcome to another episode of No Excuses on PCWProductions.com with your favorite show hosts. Well, two of them are still.
And Wallace L, and we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry sans a Fern this week, because Fern got surprised by the wonderful surprise work shift. Everybody loves getting a surprise work shift assigned to them. But yeah, so that's the story. And we're going to do our best to present you with a show this week anyway. Apologies in advance if anything goes wrong with this episode, because I'm running the broadcast rig and, you know, I have no experience doing so. But yes, we should be coming to you live from YouTube this week, and hopefully the archive will work and everything. Although, you know, I can't promise anything since we're once more depending on somebody else's services. But you can find a link to the show. You know, I don't know why I'm even bothering to say this, because I don't think anybody can be listening without already knowing where it is. But the link to the show and links to shows in general can be found on our Discord server, which is quite easily accessed using the Discord client. And you can get the address by going to vtwproductions.com and clicking on the No Excuses logo on any of our recent show posts. Other ways you can interact with the show include sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or by following us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw.
Indeed.
No, it's a different show.
Yes, indeed, it's a different show. I almost missed it. But, yeah. So, we're down to Fern this week. We were down a Vaul last week, and we were down to me the week before. So, probably another mostly filler show, but we'll get through it.
We'll do our best anyway. Yeah, hopefully Ari won't have to duck out early, because I really don't want to get put into the position of having to do a solo show. Especially a solo show unplanned.
Yeah, it's, so yeah, we'll have to do this show quickly, because I have a 30-minute meeting I have to get to at some unspecified point. Don't you love the unspecified things when it comes to timing? They're just like, oh yeah, you just gotta do this thing at some point.
Yeah.
In this time frame, it could be any time in this time frame. It drives me bananas when people do that.
I don't
Yeah.
understand what's so wrong about punctuality. Like, it used to be a well-regarded virtue to do things, you know, at the right time in the right place. But
not so much anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we'll get started then with weeks. And since there is no Fern, Vaul, how was your week?
Well, as everybody knows, if they were listening to the previous show, I wasn't here during the previous show. And the reason I wasn't here during the previous show was because I was moving house. I did find a house in the end, and that was good, because I was terrified of ending up homeless. So I got a offer of a place in a flat, a suburb over, and it has been quite a good house, generally speaking. I am now nicely insulated from the masses of douchemobiles that used to plague the show. People going down the road, which I never understood why people would do the douchebag thing on our road, because our road was full of speed constrictions and speed humps. But apparently that was a thing that people do. But no longer. I'm now sort of like insulated down a long driveway in the middle of sort of like there's a bunch of trees around, a bunch of other houses around. There is some construction work going on at one of the sections nearby, but the construction workers don't seem to work on Sundays, which is when the show is for me. So that's no problem. My flatmates are kind of normie though, and kind of noisy too. So hopefully things will be fine. They don't seem to be making too much noise today, although I can hear very loudly every time a door is opened or closed in this house, which sort of bothers me. But yeah, I'm nicely situated in a new place now, and I can, you know, finally settle down and not worry about that so much. Although there were lots and lots of little problems with the whole closing out the previous lease, which didn't amuse me very much. One of my flatmates, the owner of the property, as opposed to the manager of the property, came by to do a little bit of yard work around the place on the day where we all gathered at the flat to clean up, having vacated already. And so one of my flatmates went out and had a bit of a chat to him, and he was rather miffed, to say the least, because apparently he'd never heard anything about the plumbing problems that we'd reported to the property manager multiple times in the past. And yeah, he was less than happy to hear that we don't have cold water in either the bath or the kitchen. So yeah, he's got a nasty surprise waiting for him if he decides to take a look at what the plumbing is actually like here, because it's no good at all, and at the old place. But yeah, I expect we won't get much of our bond back because one of my flatmates somehow managed to rip the carpet. I don't know how. I really don't know how you can even manage that, but he did. And they had complaints about pretty much everything, so nothing we can do about that.
We could pretend that he was just trying to move furniture and it was an accident. He just didn't notice.
Well, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it's an accident or not.
I know. I'm just trying to be nice to him and say, okay, maybe he wasn't a douche.
Well, he didn't know where it had come from, and honestly, he's not the sort of person who would just wreck something because it obviously happened because I would say, based on the position, that one of the wheels of the sort of office chair in which he sat was kind of dicky, and it probably got caught on the carpet and pulled it when he moved. Something like that. That's what I would guess based on the size and position of the tear. But regardless, replacing carpet is expensive and is liable to come out of our bond, and hopefully it won't be expensive enough for them to seek compensation beyond the value of the bond, because that would be very, very inconvenient. But yeah, so I have largely been preoccupied with dealing with those matters of accommodation over the course of the past week. Now, what did I do the week before? I feel like there was something I wanted to talk about the week before, but I absolutely cannot remember it now. At all. The heck was I doing? I've been so busy that I haven't been able to really keep track of anything. But yeah, so gaming wise, I kept playing Grand Order. That has taken up a goodly amount of my time for a mobile game. My luck has continued to hold out, such as it was. I am still the 3-star champion.
You're now further along than me and my 5 stars in the story. Although I have played for over a year at this point, you have progressed more in a month than I did in a year.
Yeah, you say you've played for more than a year. What you've done is you've logged in repeatedly for more than a year.
Done dailies. I've logged in repeatedly, done a few dailies, and occasionally done a few story quests. I am super duper casual in that game.
Well, I mean, technically speaking, anybody who doesn't spend money on it is a casual. But yeah, I have no luck with the gacha. Whether the free one, or the paid one, or the event one, it doesn't matter. I got no luck of any kind with it. It's it's been really, really cruel to me. So I've been making do with really, really inferior servants for the most part, like B and C tier sorts of servants, and just doing what I can, because I can't even get, for the most part, I can't even get A tier 3 stars. The only one I've got that's really the only ones I've got that are really good in the 3-star tier are Ushiwakamaru Rider and Caesar Saber. The other ones not so good. So I'm having to make do with the lonely starting 4-star that I've got, which is Emiya. Who, if you only have one 4-star, he's not a bad one to have because he's a generalist. But as a 4-star, he's not much good because he's a generalist.
Yeah,
he can't. He's not powerful enough to make a decisive splash in any way.
Yeah, he's a good bumper early in the game when you first start, but after that he kind of falls off pretty hard. I pulled Emmy as my first 4-star too in the initial pull, and he did good for my whole first month as my only 4-star, and then I started gradually pulling better and better things.
Yes, well, I have pulled steadily worse things. the entire time. Yeah, so I haven't been able to get servants that I like. I haven't been able to get servants that I need. I've been pretty much, you know, stuck with garbage for the most part, and making do with it generally. Although you have to go to a lot more effort to devise functional strategies if you've only got 3 stars to work with. The game is substantially harder. The only reason I've been able to progress at all has been the ability to grind up my servants by calling in a ringer from somebody else who happens to have something OP that is going to help me get through the EXP grinding missions and whatnot. Yeah, it's very frustrating, but I mean that's gacha games really. Like, this is why they work. Somebody has to fall off the bell curve like me in order for other people to be lucky. That's not something that's literally true, but it's what normal distributions describe. There's no bad luck protection here. It is just as likely that somebody be as unlucky as me as lucky as Fern or Ari, who pull 4 stars non-stop for whatever reason. Yeah, so I'm stuck in deep frustration land there, but you can't have everything you want, or anything if you're me. So yeah, I'm continuing to play it though because I just enjoy the game. I enjoy the way the game works. The game is very, very goofy and entertaining in a lot of ways. The Valentine's event was really, really fun. Not because it was mechanically fun, but because the story was so utterly ridiculous that it was very, very enjoyable.
This is one of the few gacha games that your reward is huge amounts of story content and just generally funny side stories just for playing the game. That's most of your reward for progression. So it's very interesting to me that they went that way, because most gacha games don't bother. But this one is the most popular gacha game, which its fate is the main reason, but it also is a story-driven gacha game. So that's really interesting. I played a bunch of the other events, but I didn't play this one. But according to what you and Fern have said, it was pretty good.
It's not deep in any way. Like, the entire thing is incredibly it's funny in a sort of childish slapstick way, like, because it's just so silly. And
most of them are.
So you get to see, you know, one of the things about Granddaughter is that one of the riders you can summon is Edward Teach, Blackbeard, the pirate. But for whatever reason, having been summoned into the world in which the story takes place, he doesn't so much come out as Blackbeard the pirate as Blackbeard the bitter otaku, and so he gets really mad at normies during Valentine's Day for having, you know, being able to celebrate Valentine's Day, and he stages this whole combat based on the fact that he hates people who might get a Valentine's chocolate.
I see.
And there's a lot of other things involved, like all of the female servants, they all want to give chocolate to their master, so they all start experimenting and cooking, but they're all pretty much heroic spirits, and most of them didn't do much cooking in their lifetime, but they're all incredibly powerful individuals. So yeah, the experimental cooking sort of goes a bit awry, and it ends up in this sort of plague of choco servants running everywhere, which are basically chocolate versions of the servants. And basically, in the first chapter, Blackbeard wants to round them up to be his waifus, basically. Except for Kiyohime, who scares him. He says directly. The Kiyohime is also a servant that I use as my main anchor servant in most teams. And the second... Go on.
Oh, that's actually one of the more tame ones so far. The Christmas event was just as ridiculous, with Saber Alter stealing Santa Claus's sack of presents in his sleigh and not having a clue how to be Santa, and you have to help her be Santa. And this involves running to other places and giving presents to all the other good boys and girls, which are obviously, you know, other servants. And you get into fights with them because of misunderstandings on how to deliver presents. Like, Darius the Third is Little Timmy, or something like that.
I see.
And the lunar event I've already talked about, and how ridiculous it is with the pregnant girl and the dumplings.
The The second chapter is incredibly gay. I will say that. It is basically it involves Caesar eating a huge amount of chocolate and Emir trying to interfere with Valentine's Day in order to save his master from receiving too many chocolates, and something about him basically being tsundere. And then Dermod comes along and is basically he wants to promote manly friendship over Valentine's, basically, and so they basically have this big bro down, and it's incredibly gay. It's a very bizarre sequence because all that Caesar wants to do is eat, but he gets dragged into the mess as well. And the third chapter involves a lot of I didn't really understand it, but it involved some secret plot by Hohenheim to accomplish something that's really not clear. Most of what the motivations are behind the Valentine's event are not clear. There's a lot of shenanigans and chocolate wyverns for some reason.
Because you always have to fight wyverns in that game. Yep. Always
wyverns. Everywhere wyverns. No end to wyverns. The only other place with as many wyverns is Monster Hunter.
I don't know. I think Grand Order's got it beat.
It's possible. In terms of sheer quantity of wyverns, maybe angriness of wyverns it would be won by Monster Hunter, but there are a lot of wyverns in Grand Order for whatever reason. I think it's just because people get stuck in Orleans for so long that they feel like, oh well, that's basically, this game is about wyvern country. But yeah, so it was a fun event. The next major event, I presume, will be the Garden of Sinners one, I guess.
Yeah, that's one I actually do want to play. So I've been saving up my crystals for that one in an attempt to get Ryuji, but I'm not planning on it. I'm not counting on it. I won't be too upset if I don't get it.
You want to manage to get the Saber one as well as the Welfare one.
Yeah. It's
that's ambitious. I've stopped caring about that kind of thing because I've come to the empirical conclusion that it is impossible for me to get anything good from the gacha. So yeah, I'm not worrying about it at all. It's more important for me to keep churning summon tickets and court summons through in the hopes of getting anything rather than waiting for something specific. It's a luxury for people who actually have at least a passable servant in every slot. I don't even have that, so yeah.
Yeah.
But I was surprised at how entertaining the Valentine's event was. I expected it to be, pretty mediocre, but it's short but entertaining. The grind is not quite so entertaining. The grind is quite horrible in a lot of ways. And in the end, I just because the event was ending, I hadn't managed to get anything, so I just turned it all into mana prisms and did another summon ticket, which got me nothing as well. So yeah, it was overall, as far as earnings from the event went, it was a wash. There was nothing good for me. I got a few of the limited craft essences though, which are now sort of like my only 5-star pull in the game as a craft essence, and it's a limited event craft essence which now doesn't work because the event is over. Well, part of the card works, not the whole thing. But
yeah, the stat part works, but the
and it's not a bad one either. It's I think it buffs effectiveness by like 15% of Quicken Arts cards or something like that. So yeah, it's not terrible. It's just not really high tier, but it's better than a kick in the pants, I suppose. So I finally got around to playing some Monster Hunter after things settled down and I had some time to myself instead of running around dealing with flat crap constantly. And I'm so glad that it's over. My goodness. And I've been having a good time with it. I haven't invested as much sheer time in it as I would have liked to. But what I have done, I have enjoyed, and for me, I think that it will be a good way of staving off MMO disease for a while.
Yeah, Yeah,
I don't know.
can see that.
It's like I'm one of those people who has that syndrome which compels them to constantly play MMOs and dump all their time into them because of the sort of long-term accrual that you get there. But this game has a lot of sort of like those traits of being a sort of long-form game you can invest yourself into, while also not requiring me to pay a subscription or be beholden to other people. So, yeah, it's good in that sense. I'm very bad at it still, but I find it way more playable than I ever did Bloodborne in a lot of different ways. And I'm glad of that, because if it was as much like Bloodborne as, you know, the idiot commentariat would like me to think, then it would probably be unplayable for me. But it's not at all like that. I'm surprised at how well most of the regions are put together, the zones are put together. They are set up in a very well integrated way. Like, there aren't conspicuous sort of gaps between biomes and that sort of thing in a given zone, and the like creature nests are well integrated with the sort of broader structure of an area. I'm unsurprised at the fact that virtually every time I faint while fighting a monster, it's because terrain has betrayed me in some way, because that's pretty much the way these games always go. Either the camera or the terrain will kill you. The monster won't kill you. It's the cliff that the monster pins you against that will kill you. Yeah, so that's a traditional frustration, though. It's not an original one, and so in that sense, it's not something worth complaining about, really. But yeah, I haven't played very much. I've just gone as far through the story as is necessary to have the first sort of like attempt. I don't know if there are further attempts, so the first attempt to catch the big lava elder dragon dude, who
new dude, yeah,
seems to be a walking mountain of some kind. So I haven't played very much. I was constantly antagonized throughout the course of the early zone with by the pink T-Rex guy constantly bullying me. Like, constantly. It didn't matter what I was doing, he would run up on me. Like, his patrol path seems to cover basically the entire map.
He covers most of it. He doesn't go all the way to the east, I don't think. He might, though. I don't really know.
Yeah.
But most of the time when I wasn't looking for him, I found him somewhere in the central western part of the zone, on the ground level.
I think he interfered with almost everything that I attempted to do for like the first few missions. Like, every time I was fighting a monster, he would show up and interfere with it. And not in a good way most of the time. Like, why he would... It seems to be an object of frustration for me that, like, whenever I am fighting... What's his name? I can never remember.
Anjanath?
Anjanath.
That's pink T-Rex.
Yeah. Anytime I was fighting, like, Great Jagras, Anjanath would come up, fight him for a while, and then just leave. Despite the fact that Anjanath outmasses and outpowers Great Jagras by, like, 5 orders of magnitude. And anytime I was fighting Anjanath, Great Jagras would come up, take one snap at Anjanath, and then run for it. Like, the power balance here is a little bit wacky. Like, it's more sensitive to what you're doing than what makes sense. But
yeah, it gets even worse when you unlock the top of the tree.
Yeah, the worst though, of course, was as intended, was when I was attempting to fight Anjanath, I accidentally attracted the attention of Rathalos, and things got very, very bad for me very quickly. Like, I was poisoned and on fire with like 1/10 of my health left, running through the jungle trying to break line of sight with the horrible thing while fighting Anjanath. Like, it was not a good time for me. Don't poke the Rathalos. Not even on accident. Because he is not your friend.
Wait till there's 2 of them on the map.
But, yeah, I was so antagonised by the constant persecution from Anjanath that in the end I decided to dress myself in his skin. I hunted him repeatedly, and now my Palico and myself are entirely kitted out in Anjanath flesh because I couldn't happen to a nicer dinosaur.
He's a popular farming target for your first monster you get your gear from. So for most intents and purposes, it's pretty decent.
Right. Well, I did it out of spite more than anything else, but it did result in me, like, the amount of armor I have increased by like a factor of 4 when I put on the Anjanath set compared to what I was wearing before. Although armor seems to have a bit of a variable effect in a lot of ways. Like, it's a fire resist set, but I still got one shot by Anjanath's fire. So
it doesn't. Yeah, you're fine with fire resist. The only zone that doesn't have a whole lot of fire in it, the only zone that doesn't have any fire in it, is the 3rd zone. There's at least some fire in every other zone, and especially in the 1st, 2nd, and 5th zone, there are stuff that breathes fire.
Yeah.
And if you get, I carry around 3 points in the fire passive at all times because so much crap does fire damage.
It seems to be popular amongst dragons, yes. Although Rathalos seemed to cause more of a problem by poisoning me than anything else. Which surprised me. He didn't really strike me as a poisony type.
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure how he poisons you, but at some point, after you cut off something, he seems to stop poisoning you.
Must be his tail.
Probably.
It's got spiky things on it, so maybe he has a tail stinger. But
that's possible.
Yeah, so breaking things has been kind of amusing, although it seems like the bow is really crap at it, and you've basically got to do shenanigans in order to successfully amputate parts of a monster using the bow.
Yeah.
Shenanigans which seem to be very random, whether or not they go off the way you want. Like I managed to get an Anjanath all the way to nearly dead, like he was back in his nest, before I cut his tail off, despite the fact that I did all of the damage in the fight to his tail.
Yeah, I have no idea how limb health works. I know the general theory behind it, but I don't have a clue how to actually deal with it and make it consistent. Because, like, I have this problem with another monster later that has 2 horns you have to cut off and a tail. And most fights, I can only get 1 horn and the tail, or both horns, and that's it. But some fights, for some reason, I can get both horns and the tail. It might be you have to do... I know certain types of damage do more limb damage, but I have no idea what those are, and because it's so early in the game's launch, there's no information out yet. People haven't sat down and tested everything. And because, of course, nothing's documented in this game, I don't really know what the deal is with limb damage.
Well, the Monster Handbook thing seems to suggest that particular weapons are optimal for cutting off particular bits. Though.
Yeah, there's hidden types of damage done by weapons, like your bows. When your bow makes the rocks fall from the sky, that's impact damage. It knocks out the monster and can break off armor pieces easy. Your Dragon Piercer is good for does more severing damage, so it will cut off tails and fleshy limbs easier. But aside from that, I don't know how significant that is or what. It's just those are things that I know exist, but to what degree I have no idea.
Yeah. So I've mainly been using the bow. I very much enjoy using the bow. I have this sort of like sinking feeling that it's like the millionth in one case of me picking like the weakest possible thing to main by total accident. But
it's a really popular weapon with MLG Pro people, so I don't think so.
I don't know.
Like
its total popularity rank is 6, but the total damage output seems to be pretty bad. It does allow you to pull off certain strategies that would not be accessible to other types of weapons, and you have, generally speaking, you have pretty decent situational awareness while using it because you can see more of the area immediately around the monster because you don't have to stand under its crotch. But
yeah,
I don't know. I'm not quite sure how good it is. It's just that there seem to be like a handful of weapons that are just head and shoulders above the others.
Yeah, I'll talk. I played with a lot of them.
Like
so
I know
I'll
you're going to talk about.
week.
I know you're going to talk about the charge blade, and I don't know anything about the charge blade, so I'm not going to say anything about the charge blade. But according to what I've been seeing going through on social media, people have been saying that the basically get good at mounting, use the sword and board, and you can basically kill any monster without it touching you. And
yeah, sounds right.
I've also seen like footage online of like people will climb onto a piece of terrain with the heavy bow gun and just hold down the trigger until the monster's dead. Because the monster just gets knocked down over and over and over again. I don't know how long that works for, or what stat you can build to promote that sort of behaviour. But it seems like there are certain weapons that you can just pulverise monsters with very little resistance. The bow is not one of those weapons. I still haven't been able to work out under what circumstances me shooting something with the bow knocks it down. It's been very hard for me to gauge. But it's a very, very fun weapon to use, and I feel rewarded when I bring a monster down with it, because I know that I wasn't being supported by sheer OPness or anything like that.
Yeah, I used the bow when I was Diablo's farming because I had to not stay anywhere near the blasted monster because his tail's hitbox is broken. Like, it just is active for way too dang long. So, that's what encouraged me to try a ranged weapon, and I did not want to try the bow guns, so I tried the bow. And that's where most of my experimentation came from, was while I was farming Diablos, and for a few missions after that. I think I have like 20 bow missions under my belt now. And I didn't notice anything getting knocked out, specifically, going back to what you said earlier, unless I had the rock fall up. It was the only attack I noticed that did substantial enough damage to the monster's stamina bar or whatever it does damage to knock it out.
I have managed to just knock down Anjanath with raw damage before, but it was from a situation where I was given an opportunity to broadside him with both a charge arrow and the follow-up power shot, where every single arrow hit and every single arrow hit for orange damage along his entire body all at once, and that knocked him down. But there's been very, very few times where I've been able to actually score a knockdown without, raining the stun damage on him from above.
Yeah, and I'm still not sure about how its charge mechanics work completely. I'm not quite sure how power shot works or spread shot or whatever it's called, because some of the moves don't have names, right, with the bow. People are making up names for them, and it's very confusing to figure out what the heck people are talking about when they talk about power shot, spread shot, or whatever. I'm just like, you people, can we get our terminology straight at least here?
The thing is, it doesn't make sense to call the reason it's called power shot, which is a really generic name, is because apparently, and I don't have personal experience of this, it's not always a spread shot. Like the type of shots you get depends on the bow.
Yeah, it's your special shot with your circle, but the bow is just one of those things that's especially bad when people have making up terminology for it.
Like, apparently there are also bows which shoot cluster volleys. There are bows that shoot vertical spreads rather than horizontal spreads, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I've only run into, of the 3 bows I tried, they all were spread shot, horizontal spread shot. So,
all of the easily accessible ones are.
Well, they were rarity 7, so they were not that easy.
That's not 3 bows then. That's about 15.
So, but yeah, I just built them with leftover materials from the monsters I had farmed to death. Namely, Legiana, who I have probably killed at least 30 times by now. that stupid dragon. You have to kill it so much for certain weapon types. So yeah, I had a lot of per materials laying around. But anyway, the bow's one of the wonkier weapons. I tried to, not because it's a bad weapon or it's weird, it's just I can't find any information on how the stuff works.
Well, there's no information on how any of it works. The bow's not special in that regard.
Yeah. One thing that was very different from our experiences with the bow, I imagine, was the coatings, because I was at a point where I could buy all coatings from the shop.
Well, I can now. Well, not all of them. I can buy all of the important ones, like the paralysis one, the poison one, the blast one, the power one, that sort of thing.
So what I did was I just kept the power coating on at all times when I wasn't trying to put a status effect on the monster, and would just, whenever the monster would move, I would teleport back to a nearby base and go in my box and get more power coatings out, and then go run back out to the monster. And unless I had like a 15-minute timer, that was perfectly fine.
I don't bother with that. I don't see the point. The power coating, for me, the power coating, it results in something like, a 5% increase in damage. Like, it's just not worth it at all.
Yeah. Attack scaling is different for every weapon and weapon type too, which is very strange. So, like, it's really hard to talk about specific mechanics when the game's still so new, because I'm not sure what's true and what's not.
Fern says that basically that state of affairs is never going to change. It's going to remain that way pretty much indefinitely.
Yeah, it's just, normally there is some data you can sift through and be like, oh, okay. So here is what some people are saying, here's what some people are saying, and accept or dismiss some of it. Right now, there is no information to begin with. There's nobody has any spreadsheets or data up that are worth anything.
I don't know how much of the old stuff you can grandfather in. I had a lot of questions for Fern in that regard yesterday, and he was not able to decisively really answer any of them. But
yeah, we've been winging it the whole game. All of us have.
Yeah, I don't really understand the elemental damage. If I look at the stats on a weapon, it doesn't really tell me anything that makes any real sense to me. But Fern's impression of the matter was something along the lines of the elemental stats only have to do with proc rate and proc size. They don't change anything about the performance of the weapon under normal non-proc circumstances.
Maybe.
But I have no idea if that's true or not, or if it's like his best guess or or what.
From what I've played with and seen, elemental damage seems to be equivalent to physical damage, but monsters modify it by having different defenses to elemental damage. So even though you may have an electricity bow that's wonderful against some monsters and does a ton of damage and its numbers look really high if you include that electricity damage, if you fight any monster that's under 2 stars for its weakness to electricity, it's going to do less than if those points were put elsewhere. And yeah, so I think that's why those numbers seem to be higher when you look at the weight scales for the weapon's damage.
Well,
but I'm not
the thing is that there are certain very simple questions that are impossible to answer for a person like me. And this is like the simplest example. I have 2 bows, right, at this point in time. In this example, I don't know if I literally have these 2 at the moment, but I have 2 bows. One of them does 144 damage and has no elemental effect. The other one does 156 damage and does have an elemental effect. Does the 156 damage one do more damage always? Or does it only do more damage when the monster isn't highly resistant to the element?
Yeah, I have no clue. I've been working under the assumption that the elemental damage is just an additional thing onto it that takes away from the budget of the raw damage, but
you don't actually know that though, do you? You're guessing that it might be an additive bonus, but maybe it's not.
Yeah, it might not be. Damage calculation is weird. Scaling with bonus attack and stuff is weird too. Like the hammer will get 20 damage points per every 3 attack points it gets, you put on yourself with like the skills and stuff. But like the bow will get like, or the dual blades or the bow will get like 1 or 2. So I have no honking clue how anything works right now. So yeah. Oh boy. It also makes selecting skills really difficult because I'm like, do I want raw attack or do I want elemental damage for this weapon that has an element on it? And then it gets even better when you get weapons that have hidden elements in them, where you can unlock the elemental property on it in increments of 33% of its value, 66, and 100, if you get a certain skill, and you stack it up to 3 times.
Fabulous.
Yeah, it's a pain in the butt. Like, I have the Diablo's bow, and it's like that. It's mostly raw physical damage. Like, all of its item budget was dumped into just honkin' raw physical damage. It's not legendary yet. I still need to go kill the Black Diablos, which I really don't want to do. But, yeah, you can get 3 of that skill, and it's one of the ones with a hidden element that's just grayed out until you have stacks of that skill. And then it's not gray anymore. It's white. But yeah, I don't know if it's worth it to stack that skill, if that's just the thing on the bow you should ignore or what. I suppose it's not that big a deal, because min-maxing in this game until you get to, like, post-game after high rank isn't really a necessity, but it still would be nice to know for those of us that like doing it.
Well, it's like, the thing is, though, it's not about just being nice to know, though. It's like, the thing that you do in this game is you kill incredibly rough to fight monsters with, in order to get stuff to make new equipment. Now, it's kind of a bummer if you go to all that effort to make new equipment, and then because you don't understand the stats, it turns out that it's not actually any better.
Yeah.
This is the problem. Like, I didn't know whether I should make this bow or not. What if I have to fight something that's resistant to fire? Does it suddenly just become a waste of my materials? Should I have built it into a different bow?
I had no clue. I did have a bow that I did make that was useless, and I had to dismantle it. I forget which one it was. Like, it was just objectively worse for everything I was doing. Like, it was doing less than 1/5 of the damage as the other bows, and I'm like, okay, what is even going on? I think it was an element-heavy bow, so I'm not sure. But, yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of like being the conundrum that I'm in. Like, I don't know when I should be, what I should be aiming for, when or how. And, like, for instance, Engineath is technically weak to water, and there are lots of easily accessible low in the tree water bows, but they all have bad base damage, like starting weapon level base damage. So are they actually any better? Is it worth even using them? It's very hard to tell.
Yeah, I haven't tried the water bow tree out yet, so. I specifically didn't give it a shot because it didn't have a monster name beside it. It just said water element tree, which is really weird because normally it uses like all Jai Totoro's stuff, all the way up to the end of the tree. But it's, instead of having the monster's name, that particular tree is really wonkily named. It's just called the water element tree.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. I think that's because it's probably because you can't. I don't think that you can make it with just that stuff. I think you need ore as well. But
yeah, but
because ore is so hard to get.
Yeah, and everybody's not drowning in ore. Like, the only ore I have to occasionally go out and get is in the very last zone because I haven't farmed it to death. And by farm it, I mean pick up the occasional mining node you see when you go out on a hunt and you'll be overflowing with ore. Yeah. I'll talk more about the stuff I've noted when we get to my week, but yeah.
Yeah,
so the bow was especially a monster when it came to statting it and trying to figure out what was best.
Yeah, it doesn't behave like a normal weapon at all. It behaves like a shotgun or something. But, yeah, I'm having a good time with it, and I'll probably be able to sort of potter over it for a great length of time. The next game on the horizon that I'm really interested in is Dynasty Warriors, and that can wait as well, because that's going to be another huge time soaker of a game. Well, that's how I play them anyway. But, yeah, after that, not really sure what I'm looking forward to after that. Probably Fate Extella Link, which I'm, over the moon waiting for.
I saw you squealing about that.
Yeah, yeah. It's sort of you can tell that they're just they're pandering to the base really, because like there's no reason why Iskander should have been in Fate Extella, because he's got nothing to do with the story, and there's no reason why Astolfo should be in Extella Link, because he doesn't have anything to do with the story either, right? Really, except for the fact that they've decided to make Charlemagne the main character. They're basically brazenly responding to character popularity from the Fate Apocrypha anime, because to my amusement / utter dismay, the internet is completely clogged with Astolfo fan art at the moment. So, yeah.
I mean, Astolfo won some waifu points in the first season, but I don't get his super popularity. I don't get it.
I don't know, latent homosexuality. I don't get it.
Oh man,
it's really odd. But I mean, he's certainly a fun character to watch. Like,
for those that don't know, Astolfo is a girl that was called a boy by the person that drew it.
Yeah, basically, he's blatantly drawn as a female character, and he's just a male character in name only, really.
Just because he's one of those types.
I keep losing these missions. I hope nobody watches this. Just listen to the audio, folks. I'm not paying enough attention to watch the mission objectives, so I keep losing. I need to play something way easier.
Yeah.
But so Astolfo's going to be in there. Francis Drake is also going to be in the new Extella, I noticed. What?
Oh, I was just checking the stream to make sure it was working, because my internet started wigging out.
Right.
But yeah, we're okay.
Francis Drake is also going to be in the new one. I didn't realise that she was all that popular, but it seems like she actually is, because of Grand Order. Apparently she's quite good there. Not super top tier, but a very good generalist with a lot of a really high stats, so that sort of enhanced her popularity a little bit.
I was really mad when I pulled her, when she was the one I pulled at the start of my 5-star spree, when I finally got all my 5 stars. And I was so mad because I was trying to get somebody else. I forget who I was trying to get. I think I was trying to pull Sakura at the time. And I pulled her, and I'm like, no, I don't need you for my team. You are the worst one to fit for my team at the time. I was just really mad.
She's really good for farming QP missions, though.
Yeah, she is. But I also have to level her up. And I have a Jean to dump all my extra cards into that don't fit the servants I'm leveling up. So I have no laying around just EXP cards to stick into her.
I'm going to choose a mission so easy that there's no way I can lose it. Because this is getting embarrassing. So yeah, I guess I'm hoping that things will get a bit more back to normal for me now, and I'll be able to return to a sort of standard schedule of playing games, drinking too much wine, and watching anime. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for anyway. I have had almost no time to watch anime because I've been furiously busy with other things, and also since I tend to do that late at night, I also have sort of less opportunity to now because my work schedule has changed again, because it changes every couple of weeks. I have no idea if it's going to stay stable or if it does, for how long this time. But yeah, so now instead of having a weekend per se, I get Wednesdays off and I get Sundays off.
I would hate that.
Yeah, it's not great. But it's not without its downside. Like, you have the option to be flexible in when you do your work, right? I don't, because my work is driven by customer demand. So, in that sense, it means that I never end up having 5 days work in a row fatigue, because I don't ever work 5 days in a row. I don't get as long a rest, but I don't have as much fatigue built up either. So that's something, I guess. But yeah, I did have time last night to watch the new Fate anime, which is a sort of light-hearted one. I need to check the precise name because I don't remember at all. If I can find it, that would be great. It's called Today's Menu for the Emiya Family. It's a...
I didn't even know this was a thing.
Didn't you?
Nope.
Anyway,
went right over my head.
So Today's Menu for the Emiya Family is a cooking show. It's a slice of life show, I suppose, but it's primarily focused on cooking. It's primarily about cooking with the Fate Stay Night cast. And the episodes basically take the form of Emiya is wandering around town, or Shiro is wandering around town looking for what he's going to cook tonight to feed Saber and whoever else decides to show up for dinner, which is, a variable cast. Like in the first episode it's Saber and Tiger and Ilya, and in the second episode it's Saber and Tiger and Lancer. But yeah, it's basically... It takes place in the sort of the warm fuzzy world where nobody had to die and everybody's still hanging around all happy like in Carnival Phantasm. So, yeah,
I see.
It's not Shokugeki style cooking show. It's like you could actually learn this recipe from the show if you wanted. Sort of cooking show. Oh my goodness, I picked the wrong stuff. I'm gonna lose the unlosable mission.
I'm just banging my head on my invisible desk, thinking, oh goodness, we've reached Fate spin-off levels to a point where we now have a Fate cooking show.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's not an unreasonable spin-off in that sense, because I mean, like, one of the notable character traits that they bring up repeatedly in the franchise is the fact that Shiro's a good cook, and Sakura's a good cook, and Rin is a good cook, and they're quite competitive about it. And also the fact that virtually every member of the cast not already mentioned is a prodigious eater. So, yeah, it's part of the canon lore, so to speak. But yeah, it's just a light, fluffy show, which I suppose if you're interested in Japanese cooking or have any affection for the characters in the cast, then it's certainly worth watching in that sense. But it doesn't require much commitment of your time. So, the episodes are half length; they're not full length episodes, which is good because it is about cooking. There's only so much that you can say about that, really.
Yeah, I like Fate a lot, but I'm not nearly as big a fan of the Nasty Versus you are. You're like a whole degree above me.
It's cute though. I was, after a story is finished, that they don't ever get to be any happier under normal circumstances, and there is very little happy about the way most of what happens in Fate Stay Night ends. Like, somebody's going to die every time. It's usually Lancer. But yeah, it's always nice to get to see everybody being happy, and they are cooking, I guess. But yeah, it's not Carnival Phantasm wacky, but it's not Fate grim either. So yeah, it's an interesting show. Not a spin-off that I expected, but one that sort of in context doesn't make no sense. Yeah. It's not good in the conventional way, though. That's the thing. I think it might still be UFO Table, though.
I double see.
It's not done in full UFO Table glory. It's done by it looks like it's been done by about 2 animators, but and it's all done in a very sort of the sort of soft pastel style that you're likely to see from a slice of life anime rather than a Fate Stay Night. Yeah. At any rate, I'll leave it there. I've gone on long enough.
Alright. I guess we move on to my week then. We're probably going to skip the break during the show to make the recording easier to deal with. So, I didn't do a whole lot of mini things this week because it was my light week. I only get one this cycle because we're still coming off the holidays, and because my cycles are month to month and a half long, they this is just the way things timed out. So after the catastrophe that happened 2 weeks ago, I went through work the next week and got done, and Monster Hunter came out, and I was like, it just happened to line up with my lighter workload. So for about half a day every day, I've been playing that mostly, just messing around trying to figure out the game. And I don't really have anything else to do, and everybody and their sister's cat has been like, we need to play Monster Hunter. So, of course, in my usual fashion, although I do not play to beat the game particularly fast, when I start something, I intend to finish it and can get very single-minded. So I just kind of kept going, like the Energizer Bunny, and I beat the game. And all the optional quests. And all the hidden quests. At least for normal and high rank. And I am now in post-game. So I have a lot of experience with the game and experience with the mechanics and the weapons under my belt. And specifically what I did was about every 2 days, I would switch up my weapon just to get a feel for a bunch of them. And the ones I wound up actually getting my hands on and trying in the end were the bow, as previously mentioned, came later. That was like 3 days ago. Then there was, but first I started with the dual blades because that's what I used in the beta, and they were fairly consistent there. So I tried them out for a while, and they have become my fallback. If things just get too ridiculous, I will pull them out and just go blow a monster up by pressing circle and triangle together and watching it die. I tried out the hammer for a bit. That I did not like very much because while it works wonderful on some monsters, and unlike other weapons that can usually deal with it, a hammer just cannot deal well with monsters like Diablos that burrow and tunnel and move really fast and spin around, or like Tobi Kadashi, who will jump onto trees and jump up everywhere on top of you, or Kieran, who's going to run around the whole time. Like, the hammer just ain't gonna work real good. There are better choices.
So how does, by contrast then, how does, say, another super heavy like the Greatsword deal with that?
The Greatsword's a bit better because its swing time isn't quite as bad as the hammer's.
So is the hammer just sort of like past this critical timer that makes it just too cumbersome to use?
For the monsters I tried it on. There were some monsters that were great on. For monsters like Baroth, or monsters that don't hop around a lot, like, what's another big honking dude? Like, Rathaloses will like to stand on your head a lot when they fight you, so the hammer actually works okay with them. But, it's just, if you get a fast monster, it just is just too slow with its damaging attacks that actually are worth anything to use. Now, you can alleviate that a little bit by getting the focus skill, which you also really should try to get with the Greatsword as well. But the Greatsword's just a little bit faster and has just a little bit more range from what I've seen. And that's just enough to clip it in its weak spot and do a substantial amount of damage. And it's easier to hold and time the Greatsword's charges as well. So I found that incredibly helpful. But yeah, I was not a big fan of the hammer at all. But there are people that use it just fine. I have one friend that's done the entire game with the hammer until recently when he switched to the hunting horn, and he did just fine. So yeah, the hammer was a thing. My secondary weapon pretty quickly became the switch axe, and mostly just because of how ridiculous it was. I was not very good with it, but it was really fun to use.
Yeah, it was notoriously overpowered in the previous major installment of game.
Yeah, what you do with it is you build up a charge, you switch it to sword mode, you stab the monster, and you will pseudo-mount the monster. It doesn't count as a mount, but you will stick yourself to the monster. And as long as you don't get hit by anything, you will red that thing like a chainsaw, and it will explode in whatever orifice you stuck it in.
Oh my.
And it is awesome to use. It's just so much fun to stick that thing on a monster's head or its bunghole and just watch it explode. Because it's actually really hard to land on a lot of monsters to get it stuck, and when you do land it, it feels really good. Now, the reward for it wasn't nearly worth it. It didn't do near enough damage to justify focusing on just doing that, but it's what I did because it was fun. So yeah, I switched away from that because the monsters were eventually just getting too hard to keep switch axing them to death. So then I tried out a few other minor weapons and didn't try them for long enough to learn anything. And then the next real one I tried out was the bow, but then after the bow was the heavy bowgun, because I'd seen people playing around with this and I wondered how it compared to the other ranged weapon, the bow. And this thing is stupid easy on some monsters. Like, quick monsters will run up in your face and chew your face off with it, but if you get a monster that can't move real quick, you're just going to kill it. Like, period. Like, just get bonus damage on piercing ammo, and then just sit there and shoot it.
Yeah, I've seen somebody just shoot a Baroth to death. Just like stand there and kill it, and it couldn't do anything.
Baroth is the staple, like, slow, tanky, doesn't move real quick, ain't gonna chase you real hard monster.
But even in a scenario where the monster is like that, having a monster which just has to stand there and take it shows that the weapon's got a bit too much gas, I think.
Yeah, especially early on. Later, you're not going to be able to stagger things to death with it, but early on, you definitely can. You can stick cluster bomb ammo in that thing, level 2, and then just watch it explode all over the monster's face. Yeah, it's going to fall over. Like, you're going to get a KO, or you're going to blow off a limb or something. Like, it's going to fall over. So I generally did not like that playstyle. So after half a day, I switched away from it. But I got about 10 missions with it under my belt. And like, okay, yeah, don't like that. And then I went back to dual blades for a while to progress the story. And then today or yesterday, I forget when, I crafted a charge axe because I'd heard it was good. I wanted to try it out. And this weapon is busted. Like, far and away the best weapon I've tried for just raw effectiveness. Now, it is the most complicated weapon in the game, and most people know that going into it. But what they don't know is there are entirely, completely hidden mechanics to this thing. Unlike other weapons where you're just not sure how to do some moves, just how the dang weapon works is not explained anywhere.
Maybe it was explained in a previous installment. I have a funny feeling that that's the case with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. So the way the charge blade works is really... it's not that complicated in practice and would not be hard to explain, but they hide it. So, and because you have to perform specific moves to get certain things going with it. So it's a sword and shield normally, but it's weaker than the usual sword and shield, and its moveset is much more limited like that. But the point of the sword and shield is to charge up a glowy meter. And once this glowy meter hits red, you can bank that charge at any point by holding up your block and pressing the circle button. And this will store the charge you have as files. And if you have a yellow charge, you'll get 3 files. If you have a red charge, you'll get 5 files. And that's the cap. Now, with those files, what you then do is you switch the sword into axe mode. And you start up the super attack, but cancel it with the guard button. And this will cause the attack to cancel into a sword swipe, which will bank all those files that you banked from the charge into your shield and supercharge your shield and your axe mode. And then you build up more files, and you can use those files as ammunition for your super attack with a super buffed up shield. And if you do this, the monster explodes for multiples of hundreds of damage. And it is not that hard to do because you can do it pretty quickly. Now, you can also, a mechanic they tell you nothing about, there's not even a hint to this mechanic, is the sword charging mechanic, where you can actually make the sword mode useful. Where if you hold during the bank energy animation you do from guarding with the shield and holding circle, if you press triangle in the middle of it and hold the charge and release the charge at the perfect moment, you get a 45-second buff that causes your sword to do bonus file damage. And files are like your bonus element type on your weapon. So the sword actually becomes really honking good while it's charged for those 45 seconds. You can refresh it for as long as the shield stays charged, and the shield stays charged for about 30 seconds per file you stick into it.
So an eternity in monster killing time.
Yeah, so 2.5 minutes in general, and I have the passive that prolongs weapon effects or special weapon effects by, I think I have it up to 20% from the gear I have. So yeah, So that's wonderful. The weapon's complicated and everything, but what does this mean for the monsters? This means the weapon does, like, no joke, 4 times the damage of any other weapon I've tried. Like, it blows people up.
It seems inhospitable.
Yeah. I mean, it takes you a while to get going, and I understand their reasoning for making it a little bit, making it a little powerful in that particular mode, but holy crap. If you're not using the charge blade, you're playing suboptimally, basically, is what I'm trying to say. It has 2 modes, so it works for any type of monster. It has a shield, and while your shield is charged, in addition to buffing your axe moves, buffs your dang shield to be stronger than the basic sword and shield, and can block pretty much anything other than unblockable charges and dives. Like, there ain't a whole lot you can't block with it. So, you're gonna... And what's even better is moves in the sword and shield mode have guard point on them. So while you're doing certain attacks, you're guarding, just like with the sword and shield, or the lance. So, it's just a really, really good weapon compared to everything else I've used. Like, yeah, with the dual blades, you're really fast and can dodge everything just fine once you get good with it, but you're not doing that nearly as much damage as you are with this stupid thing. If you get the monster in 2 combos with this thing, it's going to be limping in high rank. If you have like a rarity 6 or 7 one of these things. I got one up to rarity 8. I went out and punched Nergigante in the face a few times to get one to rarity 8 just to see what would happen. And yeah, I got Nergigante to under 13 minutes now.
I'm not sure that this doesn't actually sound like an unalloyed good, though. This just sounds like, oh, well, I guess now we've just turned this into a thing where you run up to the monster's nose and hit it until it dies, which is basically like the extinguishing of the monster hunting part.
Yeah, the weapon is just a little too powerful, I think. I do like the design of the weapon. I think it's really cool. I think its controls are a little wonky, and the damage is too high, but it's a fun weapon to use. But because it's so powerful, I think I'm going to have to stick it in my box and just use it for only when I need it. Because I want to try the rest of the weapons out, or at least the ones I'm interested in. I have an insect glaive sitting in my inventory right now that is just kind of chilling there waiting for me to go farm Kieran to get it up to at least rarity 6 so it's not completely useless. But yeah, the charge blade just kind of broke everything I was doing at the time and sneezed on anything I looked at funny. Any investigation became doable once I got this charge blade. 15-minute timer was NBD from then on.
Well, to be fair, 15-minute timers are hard for me mainly because I get lost.
Yeah, So another thing I've learned while playing the game is to look for the dang grapple points to get around the map faster. Because when you get investigations are, for those that don't know, I suppose we should explain a bit more since people may not have the game. Yeah, but yeah. The investigations are optional quests you pick up in the world while you're hunting monsters by examining their tracks, and you can
basically
set certain ones
generated.
Yeah, and they're randomly generated with different, with varying mission objectives, difficulty, amount of players you can take, number of times you can faint, time limit, and rewards. And generally, the more restrictions there are, the higher the rewards. So, yeah. One thing I was having a lot of trouble with was when I would need to farm like Legiana, who you need to farm a lot for certain weapons. It was really hard to catch her in the 15-minute time limit, and I had a bunch of investigations chilling around that told me to go kill her in 15 minutes or capture her in 15 minutes. I'm like, okay, how do I get around a mountain with vines everywhere? Well, there's an answer to that. About 2/3 of the cliffs have a grapple point somewhere nearby to get you up the vines halfway through it. And they're really hard to spot until you happen to notice them. So, and I did not notice this until well after I'd cleared the zone and farmed it to death, climbing the vines everywhere in that particular zone. Yeah, and then I thought...
Those bugs are surprisingly sturdy, given the amount of, the size of the weapon that you're carrying and the amount of armor you're wearing, and yet you can grapple off of a beetle clinging to a branch.
Yeah, so the wedge beetles are little yellow glowy things just hanging around. And then I got curious, I'm like, Did I miss these things on other maps too? Yes. Yes, I did. There are shortcuts all over the ancient forest with wedge beetles that you're meant to use to make yourself get through faster.
Yep.
Which
the problem is that you can still get lost. Because the sort of paths that you're taking then are not in no way represented on the map.
The middle area in the ancient forest around the tree, its paths are still confuse me, dog. I don't think that's just your sense of direction. I think they just got a bit too crazy with the paths there.
That's the first level, but it's so dense.
Yeah, there are only 5 real levels to play in. There's one boss level and the arenas, but they're arenas effectively.
But it is a masterclass in verticality of level design.
Yeah, this is something I've noticed a lot of. The first zone is a giant tree that goes vertical high. The second zone is a wasteland that sprawls outward, but has a whole underground area for, like, in 2 different parts of the map. And then the third area is a mountain that just goes up and down. So there's a lot of verticality there. They really like their vertical level design. The 4th zone is a hole in the ground that you go down. The 5th zone is also a hole in the ground. So they love changing elevation in this game, and it often makes picking the right path very difficult when you're going through the zone until about your 20th time running through the whole dang thing, because you have no idea if the path you're on right now is going to go up or down until you figure out the level. And these levels are not tiny. It will take you about 20 missions to get a feel for most of the level, and even then you're still going to get lost in some parts of it. But yeah, so I do like the levels that we got a lot. I don't think there's any bad ones. There's none that I just don't want to go to. So that's good. But I am a little disappointed that we only got 5. I know that's standard for the series, and yeah, whatever. But that is a disappointment with when you're playing a grindy type game like this and you're playing literally in one of the same 5 environments every single time.
Well, but you say one of the same 5 same environments, but you keep it be fair. Like every one of these environments has like 4 different biomes in it.
I suppose that's true. Well, except for the 3rd one, which is all 1. But yeah.
Well, I haven't explored it yet. I've unlocked it, but I haven't actually been there.
Yeah, there's like you could stretch it to 2 in the 3rd one, but yeah, it's just like even then the oasis in the desert still gave me vibes of the previous forest level, and the only place that I can really give points to that in are the 4th and 5th zones, which do have diverse biomes that you won't see anywhere else in the game. They're completely unique. They don't feel like anything else. But the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd zones don't really, their diversity in biomes doesn't really feel like it gives you that much. Like, there's not a whole lot of difference between fighting underground in the big sandy cavern with the sand waterfall to fight the Diablos as there is fighting above ground in the big sandy wasteland to fight the Baroth. One's just a darker color. But yeah, they do have radically different biomes in the 4th and 5th zones, although the 5th zone is like special final area zone, so of course it's special. But yeah, I overall though, I've enjoyed the game so far. I've enjoyed playing with people especially.
You say so far, but you've basically finished.
Yeah, pretty much. So one thing I do want to point out to people, and this is, I'll try to say this as unspoilery as possible, other than what I've already said so far. Once you beat the game, finish the last boss in high rank, because until you beat high rank, you ain't finished the main story. If you've done all the optional quests, and you don't see anything else in there, you might think you're done. There is more there. It is just not advertised that there is more there until you get up to Hunter rank 29. So, once you get to Hunter rank 29, a new assignment will unlock to go kill 2 Beetlejuice with a purple glow around them in the thing. I tried to fight them once and they ran me over. So I am out here grinding.
It's like, yeah, I killed everything else in the game and I'm full of tier 8 weapons, but yeah, they ran me over.
Yeah, them Beetlejuice hit hard. I've got a craft gear specifically for them.
You're going to craft a charge blade specifically for them.
Yes, actually, that's why I crafted a dragon charge blade. and took it to rank 8. Those guys are jerks. So yeah, and it's Beetlejuice. It's a aircraft carrier that goes really fast and blows you up. So so yeah, there is more to do after you clear the main story. It's just not advertised at all. I was telling Vaul before the show, I had a friend of mine who cleared the game not too long after I did. And I was telling him, so have you made progress on the quest after you beat final boss name? And he goes, there isn't another quest after final boss name. I've done all the optional quests and found all the world quests too. I'm like, yeah, there is. I'm staring at it. He's like, no, there isn't. There isn't anything else in this list, dude. I'm like, what happened? So we went and Googled it. And yeah, you have to reach Hunter rank 29 to unlock the next quest. And there is nothing in the game to tell you you need to do this.
Well, to be fair, most of the game's major fans are like prodigious grinders, so they probably all found it.
Yeah. So yeah, I had apparently killed Legiana and whatever else 50 gajillion times, enough to get me to at least Hunter rank 29, because it banks your Hunter levels you get when it caps you. So once the cap unlocks, it will then give you the rest of the experience you've for your Hunter rank that you banked. So it immediately jumped me to the next cap in Hunter rank, which was 29 from 13. So yeah, doing missions before you get to the end of the story, and because you're worried about your Hunter rank EXP, is not a thing you have to worry about. It will still bank it and give it to you later. And like, it bumped me all the way to the next cap. I don't know if it rolled over higher than that, but it did. It got me to 29. But yeah, playing with friends is fun in the game. I enjoy doing most stuff in high rank, because once you get to the second half of high rank and you get to 7-star and up, it really doesn't matter what kind of gear you have. The damage increase is it's not substantial enough with the difference between rarity 6, 7, and 8 gear to make that much of a difference in kill speed for monsters. So you're not gonna like,
generally speaking, from what I can tell, the most powerful weapons in the game, in terms of raw stats, are only about twice as powerful as the starting weapons, in terms of just raw stats.
Yeah, no, that will still have your kill time, but yeah, you're not going to absolutely destroy a monster. Most of the stuff you see from somebody coming in and just blowing a monster up that when they played more than you is because they played more than you and they know what that monster does and know how to hit it. The ability to land more attacks is more significant than upgrading your weapon's damage.
Unless you're like really, really using the wrong weapon.
Yeah, unless you're like trying to, I don't know, fight Legiana's my punching bag because I hate her. Unless you're trying to use like an ice weapon on her or something, then yeah, the weapon isn't going to matter that much in terms of kill time when you're going to help somebody else. And the health boost is significant enough when you go to help somebody else. As long as they're in the same ballpark as you, you'll be fine. And you should still be able to have a good time together. And some of the monsters should still challenge you. Like Kieran will still kill you, I promise. Even with rank 8 gear, Kieran, despite being a 7 or 8 star and not a 9-star mission, will still own the crap out of you. He will kill you over and over again, especially in a group when you have to fight him for 45 minutes. Because his health bar is so dang big.
Here's an Elder Dragon. I mean, come on. If he was a pushover, it wouldn't make sense.
Oh, I know. I talked about how good Kieran was last week. I love Kieran. I have to farm him now, though, which is I'm not going to love so much, because while he is fun to fight, he is not going to be fun to farm, because he runs. Well, he runs all over the place. He is a horse, and he gallops all over the diddly dang map.
In the anime, he can teleport.
Yeah, he has a dodge move where he can do that. It's really obnoxious. I've only seen him do it once, though, on high rank. But yeah, so yeah, playing with friends is fun. Just as long as you're with somebody in the ballpark and you're not like a rank 8 guy going to help somebody in low rank, or rather, if you're not in rarity 8 gear going to help somebody at low rank, you're probably fine. So yeah, the few other mechanics of Monster Hunter, because this is going to be the bulk of our stuff we talked about this week. There is a mechanic in the game that gets unlocked later that is incredibly confusing, as most things in this game, and that is the melding mechanic. And what you do is it has a select number of items you can get by feeding items to the melting pot lady. So once it's fully unlocked, you will be able to select stuff like Mega Potions, Null Berries, Max Potions, Ancient Potions, and you can select things like Monster Gems and plates and crap, but they are much harder and require vouchers. And you can just make them from this lady. And there is no way to even know what the icon for the materials that can be used to craft an item is, because you can just essentially shard a bunch of items and turn it into a material or an item, is what this is. There's no way to tell what you're allowed to shard to make that item until you acquire the item. There's not even an icon or a question mark. It's just, there's nothing. You have no idea how many there are or what they are. And I'll save you some time with the monster materials and the monster gems and plates. They all require vouchers. Steel wyvern print for the materials, silver for the plates, and gold for the gems. So that is what you need, and that is why they're not showing up. The rest of the stuff you can melt down all your small bones to make an herbal powder or something. So that is half of the mechanic. The other half of the mechanic is tied to the jewel crafting mechanic, which is almost as reminiscent of every other game that has a gem socket system. And what this does is it allows you to slot in skills into gear with gems, which means gear with gems is almost universally better than gear that doesn't have it. So gearing late game becomes very interesting when having to use the socketing mechanic. And most of the min-maxing is going to be from farming gems, because getting the right dang gem is entirely tied to RNG. There is no way to predict what gem you're going to get. And you can make a few of them. You can make the basic resistance and the basic element damage gems. You can't make raw damage, but you can make the basic element damage gems. And that's all you can meld in the pot. The rest of the gems you have to farm.
I see.
So min-maxing with those is going to take a while, but it will make your character really powerful if you can select the right skills. That will bust your character if you manage to get it right. But that's going to take forever because it's all tied to RNG. But yeah, I guess last thing I'll talk about with the game is what particular monsters were actually good and what zones and stuff were good. So the good news is I don't think there was any just bad monster I didn't want to really fight. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any. One, I think the thing of that though is that when you come up against a monster that does something that's total bull, you want to fight it more because you need revenge. Yeah, there are two that came close. They're two of the in-game Elder Dragons, where one of them just puts a wind barrier around himself, and while interesting to fight, if you plan on farming him, you need to take a full set of wind resistance so you don't get knocked back from it. He'll just make a tornado appear around his body that deflects all projectile ammunition and will knock you back if you get close to him.
Well, that's
sporting. And he makes tornadoes appear all over the field that completely obscure your vision. He's a really obnoxious Elder Dragon. The other one that's really obnoxious, but he's really easy to fight, but he's really obnoxious, is one that just halves your health. Pretty much the whole fight.
That's not very nice at all.
No. Running that fight with 75 health you're going to die a lot. Thankfully, he has triple weakness to fire and dragon, so most people can sneeze on him and make him fall over. He has almost no health, too. But he's still really obnoxious, and I'm not looking forward to farming him. The rest of the in-game Elder Dragons are fun. Nergigante, the poster child of the game, gets, unfortunately, pretty forgettable after a while because you have to farm him so much, and he doesn't really have any big signature attacks other than what has been dubbed by the fandom the Superman dive.
Yeah, I've had the first storyline encounter with him, which is on Zora Madrigos.
Yeah.
And he just seems like a fat version of Diablos.
Yeah, he kind of looks that way, but he doesn't burrow, he jumps around. You don't even have to fight him on Zora Mandragosa's back. He'll just fly away after a while.
Well, I know. I thought that I had lost or something because I got lost on Zora Madrigos. Like, I just ended up running around in circles, not knowing where I was supposed to go.
Yeah.
I don't know if, like, I was supposed to kill more of those weird... What do you call them? That, you know how you're supposed to, like, shoot the glowing rocks or whatever? Yeah, I was unable to do so. I found one, and then I got lost.
Realistically, your first time doing it, you're only going to find one. So that actually brings up a good talking point to talk to people about that might be interested in the game. There are 2 quests. The very last quest and the one on Zora Mandragos. So the final boss and Zora Mandragos are missions you cannot get investigations for and are not permanently in the optional missions mission to repeat. So how do you get their materials to make all this gear? Well, it's very obnoxious. Occasionally, whenever you complete a mission, I have no idea if there's a timer on it, I have no idea how this works exactly, but they will show up in the optional mission list. If you look, just whenever you finish a mission or about to accept your next one, you need to click on optional and look under, I think it's 6-star and 9-star, and see if there's a 1 or 2 icon next to it, and if there is, their optional mission will become available and you can go kill them again for 1 to 2 missions depending on what the number says. But they are not permanently available to farm, which is really, really obnoxious with the last boss because he's needed for a lot of gear. I need his horn for, like, everything. But yeah. And also the last boss is more of a set-piece boss fight. He doesn't feel like a proper monster. He feels like a Dark Souls boss. In fact, he reminds me, like, instead of looking like Dark Eater Midir, like the dragon from Mario Odyssey did, he plays like you're fighting against Dark Eater Midir. It feels very similar. But he is clearly... at least you fight him regularly. He is a monster you actually fight, unlike Zora Mandragos, the low-rank final boss, who you just do a set piece and shoot cannons at. I did not like his fight. That's one fight I do not like doing, but I've had to do it many times because it is not available all the time.
I see.
Because while farming it, you get really good at doing it, but it still takes forever to get to the cannons, line up the cannons, run across the thing and fire all the cannons, break his nose because you didn't get to the top of his head in time, and when he reared up to break it while you were there to do bonus damage. Go down to the ship, shoot all the cannons, and that's all you do.
I was really not sure what I was supposed to do in Zora Madrigos, like, at all.
You shoot the cannons and let your allies fill up the cannons, and he won't even get to the thing. It's really easy.
Yeah, but I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Like, yeah, I know. Period.
I know.
Because they don't tell you.
I know. I'm just telling you now. To make it simpler in future, what you do, you get on his back, you break the things, and then you shoot him with cannons. So, that's it. And the heavy artillery skill will help with that. It boosts cannon and ballista damage by, like, 20%, I think, with 2 ranks, and that's as high as it can go. So I always just, like, carry that skill with me whenever I go there. And just take a fire resist gem with you all the time too, and you can just kind of eat the explosions his cores do and not care.
Oh, and the one that his cores, like, they shoot in Bomberman style, from what I saw. And so if you just stand at the corner, they just don't ever shoot at you.
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes they do a big AoE explosion. It's not frequent, but one of them does AoE almost every single time, and it's in a very enclosed area where you're basically going to take the hit. So, but yeah, and the first and second fights are a little bit different, but not by much. But yeah, you can only repeat the second one. And yeah, you don't even have to look at Nergigante. You can say hi Nergigante and he'll fly away before you can kill him. So,
is it possible to kill him?
I don't know. I never tried. I can never get to him in time because I'm usually busy killing a core. Like, I've managed to get all the cores down before Nergigante gets there once, but there's also a core that is available only while Nergigante's on Zora Mandragos. So you have to completely ignore him and go run to that thing. But you can break it because it's on his nose, right? When Nergigante lands on him, he, like, rears up and the layout of Zora Mandragos changes. and you have to climb up to the top of his head, wait for like 30 seconds, and you'll see his nose pop up, and you have to go beat up his nose. That's what you're supposed to do. But, yeah. I have no idea quite how it works. I think breaking those dumb cores only gives you bonus loot anyway, so I'm not 100% sure.
So, I don't know, like, it seems like a better use of your time would be to go around and mine him.
That's what I did the first time through.
That's what I did, because I got lost. So I found piles of nodes. I didn't find any cores.
Yeah, the first time I did that, I found a ton of Dragonstone just chilling on him before I had access to it in the story, and I'm like, oh, cool. I didn't upgrade like to rank 5 or whatever I was at the time that required it. But yeah, Zora Mandragos I did not like. I don't think that fight is very good. I think it's very boring. It deviates from the mechanics way too hard, and it's just a long, boring, drawn-out fight where you don't do anything.
Well, it's supposed to give you a sense of scale, right? And pretty much every game that attempts to do that ends up falling into the same trap. It's like the reason why the last Colossus in Shadow of the Colossus is boring and stupid.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing.
But yeah, the final boss is a set-piece boss, and he doesn't play like it, but his mission structure is set up like Zora Mandragos's, but there's no cannons or BS like that. You go at him and you beat him up with your sword. Like, he is a legitimate boss, even though he does not function like a normal monster does. He functions like a boss.
Like a boss.
So, yeah. So I liked him a lot better. And he is fairly interesting to fight, but because he functions like a boss and less like an animal, you can learn his patterns really easy after you die 2 or 3 times, and he'll never hit you again. Unless he's in his air phase where he has one attack that goes in a completely random direction and happens in 1 frame. That attack's a little garbage, but every other attack you'll be able to dodge. And that one, thankfully, doesn't do that much damage. So yeah, I like the game. Like I said, I would beat all the monsters in the game at least once, and I'm into post-game, and my friends are still playing it, so I guess I'm going to play as long as they are, although I think my solo career with the game will come to an end by the end of the week. If I had to guess.
See.
Yep.
Well, maybe one of these days I'll get geared to the level that you are, but don't expect it to happen anytime soon. I have no intention of playing video games the way you do. Like, I like to enjoy them. Spend some time soaking them in.
Yeah, I don't understand the concept of soak-in. It has never applied to me, and I don't get it.
Well, it's because I don't usually focus on a game when I'm playing. I'm usually focused on about 4 other things going on in the room. Like, I was like playing Fate Grand Order and reading a story on one of my monitors while killing Anjanath. Like, that's what I was doing yesterday. I usually listen to an audiobook when I play grindy games like this. As my preferred way of doing it. And this game bugged the crap out of me whenever I had to cook meat, because I had to pause the audiobook, take my headphones off, turn the sound on the game, and listen to the dang music cooking sound. I studied it. There is a tiny little flash. There's a flash that happens when the new texture comes in and adapts to the lighting in the area. So you don't need the sound.
I know you don't. You can also look at the meat and you can see it turn golden brown. You can see it.
Because there's a moment where the lighting hasn't applied, so the color is wrong for the place that you're in.
Yeah.
So it makes a little flash.
So yeah, I did try that, but I would only be able to get like 7 out of 10, and I was getting annoyed by it, so I just gave up and turned the sound on, because it was just less stressful than staring at the screen looking for it. And I played this game basically with all sound and music off. I gave up on the dang story. And, of course, the one game I just totally give up on the story for, they don't let you skip any cutscenes. You can't even skip the credits. Like, holy garbo, Capcom, let me skip this garbage story. Nobody cares. You did not put any effort into it, and the voice acting's terrible.
The only thing worse than the voice acting is the lip syncing.
Yeah, like, whoever did ADR for this needs to be fired. Get a new ADR guy. Seriously. This was bad. So, I didn't even bother. I've had the game muted the whole time and I've been listening to audiobooks. Which I may or may not talk about next week, because I've been going on Monster Hunter way too long. So, yes. That has been my week. Is Monster Hunting with Friends, which I have some stories with friends, but I wanted to talk about this week. The mechanics of the game and my solo experience mostly. So next week I may tell some stories about what happened with friends, but Yep, I think that's it for Monster Hunter and my week.
Yeah. Serithus resent an old email to us that I think he wasn't sure if we read. I didn't check to see what one it was, though. He was going on about cheese graters in the chat.
I have terrible memory. I have the worst memory of any person on the planet. So I have no idea what we've read before, and also my internet isn't connecting to the Gmail box.
Right.
There it is. There it goes. I got it.
I couldn't get my mouse pointer to appear, so I was hoping that you would do it. I don't know why it's vanished. I think it's because I'm playing a game.
I have no idea if we've read this before because it's Doom, Destiny, and something else. Yes, I think we've read this before.
Yeah. I thought so too, but I thought I'd check in case I was, just imagining things.
I'm pretty sure. I will check the archives just to be double sure. Yes, we read it before.
Alright.
I do not know which show it got lost in, but we will attempt to find that. So yes, we're very professional.
It's just that he keeps mentioning this email to me. Like, he's mentioned it twice now. Have we read it or not? And I was like, well, I don't know why he's particularly attached to this analogy about a cheese grater, because it sounded kind of gross to me. But, yeah. I just thought I'd check with you.
Yeah, this is the first time I heard about it. I haven't read the Discord the past few days, so I have noticed there's been a lot of posts in the past few days though, which is abnormal.
That's because we're trying to get the NSA to come around to our house.
I see. Alrighty then. So we have a few small news things we could talk about.
Small being the operative word there.
Yeah, which unfortunately is this week. We are unfortunately on another filler show. Although not nearly as bad as me and Fern's week, where Fern didn't have a week, so I had to wing it and do a breakdown of Phoenix Wright, Spirit of Justice chapter by chapter, because we literally did nothing else. Last week's show is the most filler show we've ever done.
Did you spoil the entire game for Fern?
He'd already beat it.
Okay.
That's why we did it, because it was the only thing we had that we.
So you spoiled it for everybody listening to the show, then.
Yeah, pretty much. We put a warning on it. We went chapter by chapter and kept spoilers hidden until we got to them. But yes, let's see. So, we'll go over a few of these. And yes, I have a warning light going up in 12 minutes anyway that may make me have to run. So we will do these quickly, I guess, and I guess we'll wrap the show up a little bit early, but hopefully next week things will be back in order. Hopefully.
Yeah, and hopefully I won't have to run the rig, because I really don't know what I'm doing.
Yep. Okay, so just in case it goes off right away, we will pull up this one, and yep. So I'll do this while Vaul finds an article he likes from the list we have. So
what are we doing? Oh my goodness.
So while he digs that up, I'll talk about the Hollow Knight one. So Hollow Knight's getting a third expansion, which is really a third expansion since the last two were DLC updates. This is the first real expansion we're getting. And it's called Gods in Glory now. And we still don't know if Hornet's going to be playable yet. They keep promising it, and they're working on it. And we really want that game mode, but we don't know if it's happening yet. However, it is having bosses plural, which is nice. And hopefully that means a little bit more than a super boss and a super boss in his nightmare form. Which would be nice. But yeah, more Hollow Knight is good. I am excited to play more. I really like that video game. But we've talked about Hollow Knight a lot. That is really all there is. It's a thing that's happening. We don't have a date. It is sometime early 2018. And yep, so.
I got to say that, if nothing else, they're pretty solid about their post-launch support.
Yep, and it's all free too. So yeah, we don't even have to pay for it. We haven't had to pay for any of the additional content in Hollow Knight. We just get it for free. Like, these guys are amazing. So yeah, more reasons to go buy the game that is probably the best bang for your buck out there.
Right. Okay, so...
Yep. So, that's all that was really on there. Did you find an article you want to talk about? Because I've been talking for a while.
No, I didn't find an article I wanted to talk about, but I'll find one that I will talk about. The Terra console launch is finally happening. So they the studio doing the localized Terra proposed many years ago now, 2013, a console launch for the title, and that seemed, you know, reasonably understandable at the time, because its style was more or less cribbed from console brawlers anyway, but it never really got much traction with anybody other than the community. Like, they couldn't convince anybody that it was a good idea and that they should invest in it. But it sounds like they finally managed to do it, and that the brawler class was pretty much the vector for that. Yeah, so that's finally happening, and people on consoles are going to be, in the PS4 and the Xbox One specifically, are going to be able to need an adult along with all PC players as well. So, yeah, it was a good fit for the console, but I'm wondering how relevant it is still now. Like,
yeah,
it's a really old game now. Like, it was released in 2011.
Yeah, we stopped playing back in 2014. I think, like, we played it for a while when it was still new-ish.
I would have kept playing it if they hadn't nerfed all the BAMs.
Yeah, if they hadn't killed the content and if they hadn't pulled a WoW, it would have been a great game.
Yeah.
Like, I would be a little excited for this. I mean, it was a good 3D action game that just happened to be an MMO. Like, and they mixed it pretty well. But no. They nerfed everything. So I'm not too excited at all.
Yeah, I don't know if they've ever recovered it, but I seriously doubt that it would, because when I last played it, it was like, you know, wearing heirlooms going into Elwyn Forest. Like, it was not really playing a game at that point, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, we would not be able to get the experience of trying to kill the big flying wyvern that literally dive bombs you and explodes. Yeah. And, like, being able to kill one of them and attempting to kill a second one for 3 hours. That's a thing we could not do again, and that's what we were looking for, and that was gone.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like, the thing is, I never had the impression that there were people complaining that the game wasn't casual enough, or that it was too hard. I don't think that there was anybody actually complaining that it was too hard. I think that they made a gamble on their player retention and what they could accomplish therein, and basically they won that gamble. That there was, in fact, in practice, a silent portion of the player base who just wanted to doof around and dress their Ellen in a swimsuit. Like,
yeah,
that turned out to be the financing demographic for the game.
Which was not us. We were playing it because it was fun to play for us, and it was what we were looking for in an MMO, and then it wasn't.
Yep. So, I guess we've got Monster Hunter now, so we don't need to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, it's still a little bit different.
It is. But, like, the reason that we liked it was because it had something that Monster Hunter does offer, which is huge beasts you can kill with your friends that are very mean.
Yeah.
But,
with interactive and 3D action combat instead of hotkeys.
Yeah, well, it's still operated by hotkeys, but they've managed to hide it fairly well.
Yeah. If you used a controller, it always felt pretty natural.
Yeah, well, it depended on your class. Like, it was using the controller to play the Berserker was a little bit janky. I imagine it's a bit like what it's like to try and play the hammer on Monster Hunter today. In the sense that you pressed a button then waited for something to happen.
Yeah, playing the lance through the controller just felt almost optimal, because it is easier to hold down right trigger to block than it is to sit there and keep the right mouse button held down the whole time.
Yeah.
That shield needs to almost never go down.
Yeah. Except it will.
Yeah.
It will if you keep blocking.
You need to sometimes, but...
Yeah. There's mechanically a lot about that game to like. It's just a pity that it turns out that the thing that really keeps a game like that viable is the need for an adult, and not anything that the game does well.
Yes, and all the actual adults have left because it is not challenging anymore. So you're gonna have to find other adults.
All of the adults that are not on a particular list.
We call those people monsters. Those aren't people. Those aren't adults. They're monsters. We hunt those.
Anyway. What have we got? What else have we got? Like, my doubts about Terra's relevance extend to the relevance of this article, because I can't imagine very many people playing it right now. Like, I don't know, maybe it didn't work for Secret World, for instance, when they did a relaunch. Like, that didn't get them mileage. I don't think that suddenly launching this on console is going to get much mileage.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be taken up very well. It's just too late. The game's too old.
Yeah, and it's ultra grindy now. Like, it was always grindy, but they've added a lot of the stuff that typifies the free-to-play Korean MMO grinder.
Mm-hmm.
And you get like gajillions of locked chests now, and all the usual stuff.
Basically the worst thing that could happen to the game. For us, anyway.
But, I guess that there are enough people who are totally desensitized to micropayments that it works. It works for them.
We gotta keep repeating to the people it's a bad thing, or they'll forget. If they're told enough times the microtransactions are okay and it's the thing that's just happening to accept it, they're gonna do it. We can't let them do it. We gotta remind you folks, even if you already know.
Yeah. I wonder if they all cost... Like, the thing is, like, they don't have to be that micro, because I know for a fact, from observation, that there are people who sink gajillions of dollars into Fate Grand Order.
Mm-hmm.
I've
seen people with...
Those are not micro. Those payments are not micro.
Those people are also people that don't have to worry about money. Probably. I am a little worried if it's a guy with a burger joint job sinking that much money into it, and I'm sure there's at least a few. But...
I think that that's the case. I think that it's the case. The people who are spending the most money on it, proportional to their income, are mostly people who really need to be spending their money on different things.
Oh,
because they are the sorts of people most prone to that sort of addiction.
Yeah.
People who are very canny with money and therefore have a lot of it tend not to see value in those sorts of things.
Yeah. Let me see. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked at the demographics of Wales recently. I haven't looked at Terra's numbers either. It's just been that... Terra's always been that game that always exists. I was sad died. Well,
the thing is, it didn't die. Terra has stabilized dramatically in a way that most MMOs never really accomplish. Like, they're stable. They're never going to be a booming game, but they're probably not going to die anytime soon, because there is a bottomless market for Ellen swimsuits.
Yeah, well, what I mean by die is the old game we used to play is effectively not there anymore.
That's true.
It is now an Ellen swimsuit, fashion show.
You can adjust the width of their thighs too, because that's a feature that you pay for.
Is that a new feature? Please tell me that's not a new feature.
It was years ago. It was added though.
Oh, it was added.
Yeah,
okay. I don't remember that option.
It's a special item that you get in the game to increase or decrease the thickness of an Ellen's thighs. Just chew on that.
We need to. I really hope we don't get on a list for having used to play the game.
Yeah, it might be a bit late for that. We're probably on a lot of lists.
Oh, I guarantee we're on a few lists, but it ain't for Ellen's.
But
anyway.
I was seeking to change the topic at some point, but then got distracted back to the original one.
Let's see. I suppose I can segue from there and bounce into another article. The yellow warning light is now on, by the way. I may have to run at any given point. Let's see. We'll do this one. So, Steam had, there was a conference somewhere, in some European country that I forgot the name of.
It's like the most American thing you've ever said.
I'm sorry. It's called the Southern European Conference, so I forgot where it was. So some Southern European country that I forgot the name of. There you go. That's slightly better, right?
Not really.
Spain. Okay, it was in Spain. Valve did a presentation. They showed a bunch of stuff that they're doing, and the biggest stuff they revealed was they are going to do some fixes to big picture mode and update it, which is interesting.
Honestly, it looks kind of janky to me. Like, I fired it up for the first time today by accident by plugging my PS4 controller into my computer, and it fired up big picture automatically, startling me because I had no idea it was going to do that. But yeah, it doesn't look great. It's kind of awkward to use. Yeah.
Fern uses it a lot, so I wish he was here for this. But yeah, I don't like it either. Whenever I have my PS4 controller plugged into my PC, even if it's emulating a 360 pad, or if I have a specific program to intercept the inputs, if I push the PlayStation Home button, it'll pull up big picture mode if any Skype window is the active window, or not Skype, if any Steam window is the active window. And I will not know it's pulled up because it'll be on my primary monitor, which will be at that present time switched to whatever the PS4 is on. So when I close it, I will either have big picture mode in some random menu with no idea what I've been doing with moving the stick and clicking around, or I'll be loaded into some random game that in some part of it doing something in the menus.
Spending money on micropayments.
It's going to happen one day. That's actually what I'm terrified of. Like, I didn't want to buy 50 Tomb Raider packs. No, I don't care about these stupid cards. Because EA had to put loot boxes in a single-player Tomb Raider game. Oh, yay. But yeah, they're looking at updating it, and hopefully they fix a few things about it. Namely, I would like it to stop re-enabling the option when I disable it every single time to open it with the PS home button or the Xbox 360 home button.
Is that whole Steambox project still running? Like, are they still trying to sell that thing?
I have no idea.
Or has that gone the way of the Google Glass?
Probably the way of the Google Glass. When they revealed their controller, I officially stopped caring. So I don't know anything about the Steam box.
Yeah, that controller was awful. The Steam box concept was kind of janky to begin with. Like, people own a PC to own a PC. They don't own it to own a console. But yeah, they were pushing that for a long time, and they probably sunk no small amount of money into it. But I think that Razer got on board, and Razer has never gotten on board with anything that didn't turn a loss. So
yeah, Razer. We make great products, but they fall apart in 6 months.
Yeah.
And so nobody buys our stuff.
Well, lots of people buy their stuff, they just usually don't buy it twice.
Yes. Everybody's bought a Razer product once because they've heard about it or it's the best thing they see in the store spec-wise, and they're like, well, I guess I'll buy it, and then 6 months later it's falling apart. And usually the pattern is they'll buy it twice, and they'll be like, okay, well, I guess this one just broke. I'll buy it again because it was a good mouse. And then it'll fall apart again, and that's when they give up. So, oh dear. The other two things they're going to do is they're going to implement a calendar system for games to make it easier to see when your game's getting updates and stuff, when a new patch is coming, or when new DLC is coming out or whatever. And so the developers can list that on that calendar for the game. And they're going to fix their currently broken review system, which is a little janky, to say the least. So, decent things on paper. I mean, Steam's kind of been making a lot of silly decisions lately, so I really hope that they start working on some of this stuff. I mean, there's a lot of stuff they need to fix. I'm not sure if big picture's at the top of that list. I think curation needs to be at the top of that list. But, you know, as long as they're working on something, because what they got right now is not anything near as streamlined and elegant as we had 2 or 3 years ago when it was just simple. Like, yeah, it doesn't feel quite right. The options are not there to do stuff we need to do very easily with the review stuff specifically. The calendars are hard to read. It is hard to figure out when games are getting updates in the menus, or looking at their, you have to go look at their, like, news posts and hope that the news article title has when the update's coming, or otherwise you have to load the whole article and go to their website. So a calendar for that would be nice. And big picture modes, in my opinion, it looks like a mess. I've never booted a game up in it. It just seems, why would you do that? But then again, our setups are, we know, despite playing on consoles a lot, we are still PC people. So, I don't know. I don't know. Big Picture is not targeted at me, so I got no clue. But it's a thing that's happening. And that's why we tell you it's
just
we also have no news.
Not a thing I care about at all. Like I don't see what the big deal is. Like I don't really understand why Fern uses it either. Like what advantage has it ever conveyed? It's just,
I don't know.
You know, it's like mentally I place it in the same category as Metro from Windows.
Yeah.
Like it's just, now all of your programs are on tiles and all of the stuff that you need utilitarian wise is hidden behind the scenes, and yeah, I hope you like that. Like when did we ask for this?
Yeah, I do not mind change. What I mind is change that makes things harder to get to or makes the path to get to something longer. And Big Picture and Metro are both things that do that. They make it much more obnoxious to actually get to what you want to get to. And also make it harder to interact with the programs and files themselves. So that's why I've never liked that particular design. But I am the opposite of the demographic this is for. This is for the casual normie who just wants to push the big picture button and play on their PC like it's a game console. So they don't have to go buy a console. Like, this is for not the people that have 2 monitors with a PS4 hooked into one and push the input button to switch between PC and PS4. Like, we are not their demographic. So I have no idea what the people that actually use this are thinking and why they think it's a good idea, but I know people use it. I've seen at least 2 people on my friends list have it open most of the time when they play games.
They must use it for something. I don't know, maybe they just feel better about it somehow.
Well, when the update eventually comes out, we'll have to hope we have Fern on the show so we can actually ask him about it.
Yeah. Let's move on to something else, because that's dumb.
Yep. There ain't a whole lot of else.
My mouse pointer's gone again.
Alright, you see something you particularly want to bring up?
Hold on, I'm trying to work out where my mouse pointer... Okay, if I pause the game, my mouse pointer suddenly reappears. I'm not used to using a controller which isn't emulated. Sorry.
Yeah. The touchpad's a little wonky with the mouse, and it's where it is and what it does on video games on PC.
Right, so... EA, Disney, NFL, ESPN to form multi-event competitive gaming network. This is like non-event of the year.
Yeah.
Like ESPN have really like, my goodness, they're trying so hard to have people care about them, but they've really, you know, for political reasons particularly, they've imploded over the last 12 months or so.
Oh yeah, they when you stop revealing your numbers, you know something happened.
Yeah, it's like everybody who's like hardcore, like core audience football watcher is like also, you know, a red-blooded patriot. So if you then decide that you're going to use your network to propagandize for anti-Americanism, I mean, you could expect to lose some money. So they're trying to make themselves relevant by getting into esports, basically.
Yeah, because people that play video games totally want to watch football. Even if it's electronic football. They do not seem to be able to connect the dots that
no lessons were learned from TV spurts is the short version.
Yes. So they're showing Madden, basically, and having teams play. I'm like, what are you guys even thinking? These are not esport games. These are dude bro games. Nobody plays Madden seriously.
Well,
there might be
that's not
three
true.
guys at the top of the leaderboard.
There is a lot of hoo-ha about pro gamers that play Madden. The problem is that I have no idea how much of it is organic and how much of it is like EA fabricating popularity, because they have these big like tournaments with tens of thousands of dollars in prizes that are held for Madden, for FIFA, for things like that. Like every time EA does their panel at E3, they shill for it some more. Surely you've seen them.
Yeah, now that you mention it, it's just it's so far out of my radar and out of the demographic of people I look at and talk to that I just like I can't even imagine somebody that could watch regular football instead watching video game football. Like there's already a sport for what they're doing.
Or people who watch like video games, why would they then decide, you know what, I could try watching a video game that is just the same as sports that I don't care about watching.
Yeah, like most people that play this. Why I said that is because most people that play video games, the stereotypes are true for a reason. We don't like sports. We might play a couple occasionally, but by and large, most of us don't like sports. So why would they make an esport, which the only people that know what esports are people that play video games, right?
I think so, yeah. I think that term has no traction in the common lexicon.
Yeah. So you're telling the normies that something they don't know about is going to be on TV. And they'll be like, well, why don't I just watch regular football instead? That's what's going to happen.
See, but it doesn't matter who wins, does it? Because it's a video game.
Yeah.
The idea is just dumb on its face. I just don't really get why they're convinced that they can make this a thing.
I mean,
there's no precedent for it, I guess, so it could go either way from their sort of all things being equal point of view.
Yeah, I mean, Madden and FIFA do have ridiculously huge numbers of sales, but I mean, most of those sales are, you know, groups of dude bros buying Madden, playing it once and forgetting about it.
I don't know how much that's true. I mean, I don't play sports games.
Seems. Yeah, I don't know. I tried them for a while because I had a friend that really liked them, but I couldn't do it.
What I know is that every E3, they'll trot out all of this footage of tons of people in a big crowd all watching the you know, eSport Championships FIFA match or Madden match or whatever. They do this every E3. I don't know if that footage is like doctored or if there's really this community of like, you know, sort of normie sub-gamer that actually think that Madden is just the best thing ever. Like, for all I know, it's been through so many iterations that it's basically the perfect incarnation of its genre at this point.
Who knows? Like, that demographic is so far away from us, and what we like, they might as well be polar bears.
But I mean, from where I stand, so is the people who like Halo, so...
Yeah, but, so... Yeah. Well, the people that still like Halo, especially. Back when Halo was all we really had.
How many Halos
consoles.
are there now, anyway? Like,
I don't know.
Did they get up to 6? Because they said they were doing a second trilogy.
There's plenty of spin-offs. They're well over 6.
No, I'm talking about... The spin-offs don't matter. So...
Oh, yeah, they're still at 5.
Right.
And the people that played back when Halo was like the only good console shooter we had have all jumped ship. Like, nobody that actually cared about the Halo universe when they were like in middle school or high school back during Halo 1, 2, and 3 actually cares anymore, because Halo 4 and 5 were terrible. Just absolute plot hole machines that retconned the only good books.
Well, I think that Reach was also awful.
Well, yes, the Reach story was also awful, but Reach is a game I didn't mind so much, but I didn't like it.
I think that the Reach is awful from both gameplay and story perspectives, because I didn't play Reach, but I watched the entire thing be played over the shoulder of a flatmate, and the entire single campaign is a series of multiplayer levels populated by trash mobs.
Oh yeah, the only thing that was worth it in that game was to play with your friends for a while. But even then, it was not anything close to the Halo 2 experience, because shooters have just moved on. Like, I didn't think it was bad to play. It felt okay to play with your friends, but single player was awful, yes. Every bit of the single player was awful. But yeah, Halo's gone down the toilet. Like, 343 just doesn't got a clue on what to do. They completely stopped any changes that were being made to the series, like when they took off and left after Halo 3. And they started just putting in random garbage with no thought to how it would affect the core systems of Halo. So, in general, people are not big Halo fans anymore. The popularity of that franchise has tanked. It is still Microsoft's fault. Yeah. Oh dear. So yeah.
Write perverse fan fiction about like aliens.
Yeah. No, we don't. No.
Didn't
Moving on. Next
Didn't
up.
they bring out another Halo Wars as well? Didn't you love Halo
Yeah.
Wars? You thought it was like the best thing ever because you have no taste.
Oh yeah, back when me and one of your older co-tanks played it for like to death. We got really good at it too. I know the best guy on the leaderboards. The guy at the top of the original Halo Lords leaderboards is on my friends list, and I used to talk to him regularly. Like the #1 dude in the original Halo Lords. Love you, George, if you still somehow are following this. It's George with a G. His name did not start with a J. It is not the curse of the J names. Anyway, so, Dude Bros have esports, and we don't know if they're actually going to pay attention or if raw numbers of sales of the video games are going to make up for it. We will see.
Yeah,
Anyway.
it's a mystery to me.
Yes. So, don't really want to talk about that. I know the least about this article.
The news is just so thin this week. My goodness.
Yeah.
It doesn't help that, you know, I've basically been disconnected for a week.
Yeah, there is a rumor about Microsoft thinking about purchasing a few things, but it comes from Polygon, so I don't trust it.
Yeah.
And they're talking about some really ridiculous purchases, like Microsoft buying EA and Steam.
I know Microsoft are rich, but there's no incentive for them to sell. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, they've got a good thing going.
Yeah, Gabe said he would burn the company before he let anybody buy it.
Well, he already has. Have you looked at the sorts of things that have been put on Steam now?
Yeah, it would go really downhill if somebody bought Steam.
The Steam is like 50% porn at this point.
Yeah, well, yeah. At least according to our curation, because we have the unfortunate anime tag attached to our frequent purchases.
I just sort of assume that everybody sees the same thing.
No, it's mostly just us, because we have the anime tag attached to us. That tag is a curse. Yeah, that tag is a curse because it includes every softcore porn being out there, which do sell.
They're not all softcore either.
I choose to believe most of them are, and I'm not going to look into them. I think that was something like that was actually discussed at the conference, but I could not re-find the article that talked about it.
It's the thing, if it was just softcore visual novels, then I would sort of grimace, but it would get a pass. But the fact is that it is also full of weird fetishy stuff. Like the environment of that market has gotten severely degenerate.
Yeah. So if you unfortunately have the anime tag on your profile as your preferred purchases, you get to experience what we do. I don't even look at the Steam store anymore unless I intend to go buy something. Like, it's just too sad.
Yeah. I think the thing is that this is exactly what everybody told Gabe would happen. Like, when they took away curation, lots and lots more stuff gets on Steam, yes. But then you end up like the Android store.
Mm-hmm.
The Android store probably has a lot less porn on it, to be fair.
Yeah. And apparently it's not that bad outside of just the anime tag.
Yeah,
like
maybe that's so. It's just that, you know, that's been, if you're the sort of person who buys media coming out of Japan by weight of production, the thing which is disproportionately missing from the market the West had access to was porn. That's just like, that's what was missing. The fact that we might not necessarily want it, notwithstanding, but then maybe people do.
They must be, because they're at the top sellers list, dog.
Is it? I
don't know. At least the sexualized games or the softcore like stuff is, but it's just this stuff does sell. I mean, I was happy when the VN first started coming to Steam in their censored versions. I thought that was fine.
I hope that my streaming software doesn't show the toasts from Steam Big Picture, because for some reason one of my guild's shamans has the Bad Dragon logo as his avatar. For those that don't know, Bad Dragon is the famed dragon dildo company.
Yeah, probably does, but we'll live with it.
I set it to capture the program and not to capture the screen, so maybe we'll get lucky. Although I just told everybody now, so I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. You only have to censor it if you show it.
Right. Well, the thing is that it's not a perverse logo, but it does have perverse implications.
It's not that bad then. Let's see. That's really all there is to talk about this week.
Yeah, that disappointed me greatly.
Yeah, it was even worse last week. Me and Fern could find nothing to talk about.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even think there's been anything that's particularly controversial that people have been talking about in games lately. Most of the controversy seems to be centered on stupid things like whether white people are allowed to like Black Panther or not.
Yeah, there's also it's basically all loot boxes at the moment, all day, every day for controversy news, and it's just we've beat that horse to death twice. We killed the zombie horse that came up after we beat it to death.
Yeah, there were. This is I don't know. There wasn't much in the way of news. There's sort of things that I posted in the political channel on Discord about things that Polygon had been writing about. Did you see those?
No, I didn't.
I posted two articles from Polygon. One of them was Understanding Ugandan Knuckles in a Post-Pepe the Frog World. Chew on that one for a bit. This is Polygon here. Are you familiar with Ugandan Knuckles?
No.
It's a really strange meme that for some reason has become very popular, of like this weird fat wall-eyed Knuckles character avatar that somebody popularized on some virtual reality chat room sort of thing. I
know what you're talking about now. I thought you were talking about something from Uganda. But yes, now that you mention it, I have seen it.
Yeah, apparently Polygon felt the need to write about the implications of Ugandan Knuckles for, I don't know, white supremacy. I don't really... It's funny how much all of these left-wing publications seem to know about white supremacy compared to, you know, the people that they're accusing of white supremacy.
Yeah.
Methinks the lady doth protest too much. And the other one... The other Polygon article, keep in mind Polygon is supposed to be a games blog, was Fantastic Beasts sequel needs to show Dumbledore's sexuality, not just hint at it.
How about we just tell a good story? If relevant, show it. If not, don't.
Or how about we don't make everything in our media obsessed about sexuality? Like, it doesn't need to be. Like, that is not actually the be-all and end-all of media.
It is.
There are other things you can write stories about?
There are bugbears, yes. Yes, and that is the current one. I'm ready to move on to a new bugbear.
This is like Polygon here, though. This is the problem. This is what the gaming news is doing, which is why we have so much trouble finding any. Because the people who actually have the resources to do the reporting are not reporting. They are writing articles about Ugandan Knuckles and racial politics.
Yeah. So Monster Hunter's a fun game. You should go play that video game.
Yeah. You guys are not so upset about us whining about talking about Monster Hunter now when we could be whining about the gaming press again. Like, that's they're so useless to us. They're not doing their job.
Yes, I almost feel like it. No, I'm not going there. But yeah. So I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up then.
There's nothing
I'm
else.
on a warning light. Oh, you see anything?
No. The only thing we haven't talked about is the Monster Hunter World sales.
Yeah, it's sold really well.
Yeah.
It is the most it's now mainstream, dog.
Yeah, and now we've got a whole pile of articles talking about why the reason for it being mainstream is Dark Souls. It's not like it wasn't like a ridiculously popular franchise to begin with.
I'm going to highlight the asterisk I gave a comment last week when I already put an asterisk by it. The only comparison I made to Dark Souls with Bloodborne or with Monster Hunter was with character movement speed and the dodge roll. That was it. Nothing else it feels anything like it. And some of the attack arcs on some of the monsters. That's it. Nothing else has anything to do with Dark Souls. Well, Dark Souls 3 specifically. But yes, no, that is not why Monster Hunter is popular. Although I could see it helping 3D action games a lot.
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I think that the influence that Dark Souls has is dramatically overestimated by everybody who cares about Dark Souls. I think that the reality is almost nobody plays Dark Souls.
I don't know. We'd have to look at the numbers for that. But but yeah, I don't know. I could see it happening, but I was about to say, yeah, I don't have numbers on it. But yeah, no. I'm just highlighting an asterisk and underlining that asterisk.
If anything, Dark Souls is a crappy, grimdark version of Monster Hunter, with a whole bunch of filler that nobody cares about. Because really, people play Dark Souls to fight the bosses, don't they?
I like exploring the levels the first time through. But yeah, for the most part, the bosses are the highlight of it.
Yeah, so it's basically just Monster Hunter, except with a whole bunch of filler.
But yeah, they give a different experience. They don't, like, comparing the games to each other doesn't feel right. In Monster Hunter, you are mostly planning out how to take down a monster within an area you know pretty well, and you're planning for a longer boss fight. In Dark Souls, the boss fights are not quite as long, but are usually a bit more intense and fast. And the world to explore being there is more of a level to clear. And it's a very different feeling. It plays totally differently in practice, even if they, some monster attack animations are similar to some in both games. And if you're
you're just making the same mistake that they do, really, in that you're actually trying to make a comparison between the two. The reality is that there's not only is there no meaningful comparison, but anything that is similar between them is similar to every other game that is also of that type, where there is you are a third person sort of action oriented avatar fighting a boss. Like there's nothing magical about Dark Souls. The problem here is that they are looking for a root to a phenomenon so that they can put their finger on it and say, look, here is the root of this phenomenon. Aren't I clever for having put my finger on it? It's nothing to do with the heritage of any of the mechanics.
Two things though. There was a whole dodge roll discussion I had before about the mechanics of the invincibility invincibility frame bucket last week, and two, it was a personal comparison, not a generalization. So that I mentioned that Dark Souls was what made me personally feel a bit more comfortable jumping into the game, specifically with dual swords. I'm having to underline every asterisk in this conversation that I had last week because of these articles. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, and what I'm saying is that the discussion is totally irrelevant, and I wish people would stop having it. Like there's a freaking dodge roll in Ocarina of Time. the dodge roll was not invented by Dark Souls.
No, but for personal anecdote reasons, it was, for me, the reason I felt comfortable jumping into it.
I'm not concerned about what you said, because you didn't write an article saying that Monster Hunter is just derivative of Dark Souls.
I know, but I'm complaining about those articles making me have to underline and qualify everything I said last week as personal. Because if they hadn't existed, it would not matter. People would assume and be, like, oh, obvious it was a personal anecdote to explain why I was able to jump into the dual blade playstyle that quickly.
I think people should just stop talking about Dark Souls. Seriously, there's like we were able to flog Final Fantasy 15 to death in 3 shows of moaning, and there has been way more ink spilled about Dark Souls, and none of it original. Please stop talking about Dark Souls. It was not as revolutionary as you think it was.
No, like I enjoy the games now where they're at now, but I don't get the memedom from them. I get they can. I get the specific memedom. I just don't get the general memedom. Like
there seem to be a lot of memes that are sprouted out of Dark Souls, and as a fountain of memes, like it's done its job pretty well. But the idea that it itself as a concept doesn't make much sense, especially since like Demon Souls did everything Dark Souls did first, and nobody remembers that it's the prequel.
Yeah, well, I haven't really followed the Dark Souls conversation, and it didn't really become relevant until, like, after Dark Souls 2, when Bloodborne was just about to come out. that's when everybody seemed to start comparing everything to Dark Souls.
Yeah, like, I'll be honest. Like when I first played Dark Souls, the thing that it reminded me of the most, wait for it, is Devil May Cry 2. Because it felt totally jank.
The first one, yeah, I could totally see that, yeah. I could see that comparison. Yep, that sounds pretty apt, actually. I don't know why people like the first Dark Souls game. I genuinely don't. It's all nostalgia. When having played them without the nostalgia, back to back to back, the first game's jank, total garbage, absolutely terrible, and the second game is pretty bad too. Like, the first two Dark Souls games are awful. I don't understand how anybody liked them. I mean, 2011 was a different world, but how did anybody like those first two games? Like, they were just bad. This was not challenging game design. This was BS game design that was broken. Like, they didn't figure it out until they said, okay, we done goofed. Let's just make Dark Souls Bloodborne. And that's what they did.
And then it was fine. Like, as I said, I'm probably never going to be a fan of that, prowl around the gothic world until you accidentally trip over a monster and die and they lose all your progress genre. Like, I don't think that that's me. I prefer just, being able to farm some stuff and then fight the monsters. But while I'm never going to be a fan of it, like, Bloodborne didn't strike me as a bad game the way Dark Souls did.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, they effectively turned Dark Souls 3, and Dark Souls 3 was Bloodborne with a shield. So, but yeah.
Why carry a shield on the other hand when you can carry a gun? This doesn't make any sense.
Because normies can't parry. But yeah. What were we even talking about before I started qualifying statements?
I was complaining about how the media is wasting all these time writing idiot think pieces about things like this.
But yes, if the media, I agree, they are dumb. If they did not do that, I would not have to qualify a personal statement.
The only fan media in geekdom which is like has more raw stupid than the video games in their commentariat is probably anime. Like, I don't think I've ever read a think piece on an anime that hasn't made me cringe horribly and wish I'd never been dared to click the title. Like, they're always bad. Like, there are some things which are so frivolous that they should remain within the realm of pure entertainment. And almost all anime falls into that category. Stop writing think pieces on anime. They make you look stupid.
Yeah, if you're really lucky with anime, you can find sub-communities of a franchise that are actually sane.
Well, there might be a couple of people who are actually sane in them.
Yes. Like when I managed to find one when the Danganronpa anime was airing and we were able to do speculation threads and videos, that was a lot of fun. But that is not a common occurrence. The anime community, by and large, is terrible. I do not engage in anime discussion with anyone outside of my friends on Discord and my friends in real life who happen to watch it.
Nor do I, even for things with really strong fan bases, like Type Moon, for instance. Like, Type Moon fans are horrible, generally speaking. Like, the entirety of any thread on a Type Moon show will always be like this competition of dick waving about how much of the wiki you can recite.
Yeah.
Or better yet, parts of the wiki that you think are wrong.
It's really funny when it contradicts it. Exactly the cleanest thing in the world. But yeah. We're rambling at this point.
Well, yeah, it's because there's no news, so now we're rambling about why there's no news. Which I think is the sort of the logical end point of that arc.
So yes, we should probably wrap it up, unless you got something else specifically.
I feel like I should, because we've talked about so little in practical terms, but I can't think of anything that has really happened this week that inspires me. I don't know. Did you get... Are you going to be able to do a good long talk about Dragon Ball FighterZ soon?
I haven't played it yet, because everybody's been... during the daytime when people are on, where I would normally play with people in Dragon Ball FighterZ, there has been a Monster Hunter game that people are playing. So, I will be able to talk about Dragon Ball FighterZ, maybe not next week, but definitely by the end of the month.
Right. Because that's occupying a lot of my social media feed as well. Probably more than Monster Hunter. amongst the people that I follow, because I follow people mainly on coincidence rather than because I sort them out. But yeah, the amount of Dragon Ball Fighters content glutting up my social media is pretty high, even if a lot of it is sort of like cover girl pictures of Android 21.
She's pink.
Yeah, and a lot of people are into that apparently.
She's pink. She eats people.
Yeah, people are really into that apparently.
Yeah,
probably didn't bear thinking about.
As I noticed during research that had to lead me to DeviantArt one time. Don't remind me.
Ever.
Don't. No, bad. I suppose I'll throw out one recommendation for something I did find these past 2 weeks that I meant to talk about last week and forgot about. There is a YouTube channel called Let's Dub. And for people that like franchises like Phoenix Wright 999 and the Phoenix Wright spinoffs, but don't want to sit down and read everything, they have done a absolutely fantastic job with a cast of amateurs dubbing Trials and Tribulations. It's a little shaky for the first 3 chapters, but the 4th and 5th chapter are really, really good. And whenever the dialogue doesn't quite fit what would be said out loud, because there's a difference between reading what a character says and hearing it. It won't sound... They adjust it to fit. So they are smart enough to do that, but they show you the whole thing played out and they dub the whole thing over. And it's really well done. And they also ad-lib a whole lot of silly stuff. And it's totally in character and fits, and it's really funny. Phoenix is a jaded, cynical, depressed, swearing jerkwad by the end of it, from headbanging on his desk so hard from all the idiots he has to deal with. But it still stays true to the story, and it's really good. So if you've ever wondered about what that game is particularly like, you can go watch that one. That's the only one I watched all the way through. They're working on Ace Attorney Investigations, the Miles Edgeworth spinoff, the first one. And they're somewhere in the middle of the 3rd chapter. So, yeah, they are a really, really fun YouTube channel that I was sitting through and just happened to stumble on. So there is a recommendation for you since we're out of news.
Yeah. I remember somebody tried to do a group of people, several times in fact, possibly many times, have attempted to do a dub through of Homestuck, but the sheer quantity of content always crushed them.
Yeah. I tried to listen to it for a little bit just to see what it was like back when I was making my way through it, but I couldn't do it. It wasn't that good. It was okay. It wasn't bad for at least what I listened to.
Well, as I said, there've been several attempts. Like some of them were good, some of them were bad. And there were 1 or 2 that were really good, but generally speaking, it's an impossible proposition. But now that it's finished, maybe somebody will pick it up and try again. I mean, who knows?
Probably, if the popularity stays up. But yeah, I like dubbing projects like this, especially when it gives amateur voice actors that are actually good a chance to show up and do something.
As opposed to Bryce Papenbrook for the 576th time.
Yes. Yep. I am I'm very happy they exist. So yeah, the channel's called Let's Dub. They do not upload frequently. They take forever to produce an episode. It took them 7 years to finish Trials and Tribulations. But they finished the whole game. They got other games on there done by different people too, so I don't know if their series are consistent, but that one's pretty good. So, especially from the 4th trial onwards, when they replaced Phoenix's voice actor from the guy that runs the channel to an actual amateur voice actor.
I'm not sure what you mean by an actual amateur voice actor.
Like, the guy that started the series, that started the channel, did Phoenix's voice initially.
Well, what makes him not an amateur voice actor?
He's not a voice actor. He just gets people together and organizes them and edits the videos.
Then why is he playing the lead role?
Because it was a college project or something at the time. I don't know. I haven't looked up the whole story. But basically, he was passable, but not that great. And they got a real decent one to come in and replace him when the series got, fairly popular. I say fairly popular, but it's only like 5,000 views a video, which is ridiculous for the amount of production value they put into it. They criminally need more views. So yeah, that's all I can think of to add to the weeks.
Right, well, I guess we'll go then.
Alright, thankfully, we're 30 minutes into the warning light, and it still hasn't gone off. So,
right.
Email topic of the week. Do Dude Bros even know what esports are? let us know. Ask the dude bros you know.
I don't know, maybe it'll mainstream one of these days. It could happen.
Maybe.
It's not impossible.
Maybe. I've given up on esports as a whole entirely of ever holding my attention, so yeah, somebody will have to let me know when it does. But yeah. Closing comments go.
I don't really got any. I really want to catch up on some anime, like, super badly, because I don't know what any of the stuff this season is like.
Yeah, I haven't watched any anime either. I've been out of the anime mood for about 6 or 7 months now.
It's not even a case of mood, it's been a case of sheer time for me.
Yeah. So, yeah, I will try to get through... I want to wrap up Monster Hunter solo stuff, and then I will try, keyword being try, to get through DPC Fighters and talk to y'all about that. We will see. They want a whole lot of money for microtransactions in that game, though, and I really, really hope Arc System Works doesn't do that. I hope it's not as bad as it looks.
I'm like, I've seen too many champions fall, too many pedestals broken. Like, I don't even know if I've got the faith to put in them, no matter how good they've been in the past.
Yep. That they worried me with the pricing on. They've worried me a bit. Like, the first red light was their decision not to dub Central Fiction. That was the first red flag. And then the second red flag was the prices on the P4U stuff. Or, yeah, the second P4A game. When I saw the prices on that DLC, that was the second red flag. The third red flag and the warning light has started blaring when we look at Dragon Ball Fighters. And we see all the DLC for it. Most of it appears to be cosmetic. And you get the stuff for pre-ordering the game, but they wanted $160-something honking dollars for the base game's digital deluxe edition.
On the upside, no loot boxes in Monster Hunter.
That's true. And the loot boxes that everybody was freaking out about in Dragon Ball FighterZ turned out to be cosmetic single-player only stuff. So, I think we're done, folks. We will see you next week, hopefully with a full cast.
I hope so. I don't foresee anything getting in the way, but neither did Fern. So,
yeah, it has been a very hectic start of the year for us. So, hopefully everything will straighten out by next week. So we will see you then. Sayonara, bye-bye.